We're hot. We're hot. Whoops. What am I there?
Actually, I'm quite cold. I've got a blanket on.
We need to take expansive department engineering.
No!
Well,
there's no room!
You already got 2/3 of the ship.
We've already had the conversation that everyone's crew quarters are just filled with torpedoes as well. So,
I think you'll find their torpedo quarters.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. You have the privilege of sleeping in a torpedo quarter.
But to do the cabling for the extra warp core, all of the torpedoes, and the extra science labs. There's just. Does anyone see the movie, Robin Williams movie, Toys, where he's not expanding the R&D department and it starts squeezing in the other rooms? So the walls are literally closing in on them in the office space next door.
Yes.
Can't say I have, but I'm getting the mental picture.
It's a good film to watch.
Yeah, it's a bit nuts as well, but fair.
A Robin Williams film's nuts. Colour me surprised.
Yeah, so.
Speaking of nuts, I suppose it's time we got our intro video rolling, because we're going to have to get on to our crazy shenanigans in all of a moment. So, excuse us while we play you this video. Oh look, there's the torpedo launcher, still attached to the ship.
Give it time.
We know Vibers is secretly launching them from the hangar they're using them as a spanner.
The more torpedoes we launch, the more warp cores I can fit on the ship.
I wouldn't say that because with Andrew's sort of like psychotic attitude towards torpedoes.
At your leisure, either more torpedoes or more warp cores.
No.
It's already full. I put a warp core in it.
I like how the
having Vibers stealing my torpedo room.
I like how the intro finished just as we heard John say more torpedoes. So we know what's happening to this ship when we get back to dry dock.
One thing we've learned from all these attacks is we need more torpedoes.
Yeah.
If you have enough you carry on, please.
I'll let you finish.
What the thing is, if you have enough torpedoes, you don't need to launch your warp cores at people.
I like that plan. My warp core's not this. But I also think the next talent we need to pick is Source of Separation, because that'll be funny on an Akira.
Yeah. Can we do the sort of one as well where we just like remove the phaser banks and put more torpedoes on?
It's not like you ever use the phasers, really, is
I
it?
would say you've still got to use the experimental
In an Akira, the first thing you need to do for source of separation is somebody go outside and unplug the bits.
Thought on a spacewalk and he gives you a little push to get it going.
One of the talents is expanded munitions, which is basically we get an extra weapon.
16 torpedo launcher.
We could have a gravity lance.
Gravity.
Oh no!
Kinetic cutting beam.
Well, actually, on Andromeda a long time ago, one of the weapons they had was basically a singularity projectile weapon. So if we could just get hold of one of those gravity things that's been destroying planets, miniaturize it, and weaponize it for ourselves.
Star Trek Online has dark matter torpedoes.
Yeah, but okay, dark matter torpedoes. Yes, I'm interested in researching that. However, to go with the first plan of the kinetic cutting beam, the first step to that is you need to get a Borg cube and then nick its guns.
That's fine. We can take
I have a plan for that if we want to go ahead. It might not be as sane as it makes out.
What raiding Borg ships or weapons? How could that be possibly insane?
Because I have a way to make it worse.
So,
Navis
Matt,
the Starfleet will go to Borg space to start raiding their munitions. See you later.
Matt sat there thinking, "Oh my God, they're actually planning to do this, and I've got a campaign
Oh,
for them that I want them to play."
I've got a way to fire more weapons. You know the emergency medical hologram,
Yeah.
and you know that they've started making other emergency holograms for other roles. Emergency quantum torpedo holograms. Please state the nature of the explosive emergency.
Okay.
We
It's
have
like-
a problem with these. When they get out of range of our projectors, they stop existing.
No.
This is a real
think-
problem because we fire and then it gets close to the enemy and disappears.
No. It's a torpedo that fires it with an intention of just sitting there when it gets there. It doesn't explode. It's a deadhead.
Oh, okay,
And
how
it's
about
full of
this?
it's full of projectors, and it's basically emergency Mako holograms.
When
Oh,
Voyager gets
I
back
like
from the
that.
Delta Quadrant, we raid them, grab their doctor's mobile emitter, replicate it, and start firing little versions of those in the torpedoes.
No, well, I like Natala's plan. We make a torpedo filled with
Programmable hollow
holographic
emitters.
and then when you fire it at the enemy, it's its own cover. It projects other torpedoes around it, and then invading troops that have boarded.
Well, I think we
So
found
that-
your next science project.
Yeah.
Blimey. No offense, but your players are a bit mad. Well, you would know. You're one of them.
Oh, is that
Oh,
Dave?
What was your first clue? Would be my immediate response to the way you see me. The people watching the stream are actually watching me just sit here with my hands folded, just going, "Let him talk. Just let him talk." They don't know how much of this I might actually be plundering for ideas.
The answer is all of it.
You never know.
So when the Orions turn up, because we are Orion pirates, we've got all sorts of stuff. We'll go, we're the Navis pirates. We rob from Borg for fun.
You do indeed resemble
To be
that
honest,
remark, yes.
And whatever's left, Vibers can just sell to his not smuggling friends for his side gig in the Orion Syndicate.
I have no idea what you could possibly be on about, and I'm nothing to do with the Syndicate and their weird dark-shaped Starfleet insignia.
You know, I'm thinking, we're thinking too small with the Borg. We invade and raid the munitions department of the Q continuum.
What? Why have we got all these flintlocks, and why do they blow up stars?
It's the last thing the Klingons will expect us to do.
That's redefining the Q-boat.
Oh, man. And by the way, welcome to the further misadventures of the USS Navis.
Yes. And they said the
Crikey,
Klingons are the biggest menace to Federation history. We're here to prove them wrong.
Right here.
Yeah.
This very room. Me oh my. You see, it's any wonder why Starfleet put these specific people in charge of a prototype ship that was testing how much power you could actually fit to a warship.
They needed to get us out.
They needed a
Defiant
minimum
Project
safe
set
distance.
some records, and we have to break them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe our official answer we said to Starfleet was always a little bit more.
Wait a minute, we were supposed to submit that report on the power readings? I've just took it as a challenge.
In a lot of ways, the comparison is
Oh,
kind of
God.
like we're the American muscle car version of that problem, because it like the Defiant broke records on power to weight ratio, and then we went power.
What's a
Just
weight?
adds more power. What's a weight?
What's a weight ratio again?
Me oh my. I had something to say then as well, and I've completely forgotten it because of the psychosis that's going on around here. at the
The
moment.
shenanigans continue.
May the shenanigans long continue. Blimey day. Oh no, that was it. I was about to make a joke. Starfleet Science Stellar Cartography Division go, hang on, we've just identified a new pulsar in space. No, wait. No, that's the Navis. They've had an upgrade. Wom, wom, wom.
We also have the worst stellar cartography division in the entire Starfleet, because every time they get a good sensor reading, they just hear the hum from our own engines.
You sure we didn't drop the sensor buoy behind the engines again? Nope. Nope, that just means that engineering have requested more space yet again. You can hear them partying right below us. Anyway, that's a tangent, and I'm getting carried away with it right now. Let me stop myself before I get lost in my own comedy. Yes! Oh yes, that's why we're here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Welcome to the start of our next episode. This one is called Splinters of Fire, and the last episode was called Adrift. So, Splinters of Fire carries on from Adrift, where we find that the crew of the Navis have finally made orbit around the planet of Yuul Minor IV, who had requested assistance from the Federation because they were experiencing an outbreak of a heretofore unknown or unencountered disease and needed assistance. Due to the nature of the colony planet being very close to the Klingon border, it was determined that with the current war between the Federation and the Klingons, it was best if, rather than a medical or science vessel be sent, something with a lot more kick to it, and let's face it, something that the Klingons probably actually go out of their way to avoid, should be sent instead. However, the Navis suffered more than a few incidents of sabotage in an effort to try and stop them, but the saboteur was apprehended and apparently was coerced into trying to sabotage the efforts of the Navis to get to Yuul Minor 3 or 4. Yuul Minor. Pardon me. Marvel at my own forgetfulness. The Navis was to be slowed down because the Orions wanted to get there first. And when the Navis eventually limped its way into orbit of Yuul Minor, there was indeed an Orion raider hanging over the planet. But as soon as the Navis turned up, they broke orbit and warped out. But not before the captain of the Orion ship at least introduced herself and promptly walked away. For those who don't remember, her name was Lolani Tarn. But otherwise, the Navis was able to deliver the medical response team that were sent to try and help. So, as a result, if I could ask our Chief Medical Officer to read me the following. I've just sent you, please.
Okie dokie. Chief Medical Officer's Log, Stardate 50354.1. It has been 24 standard hours since the Navis arrived at Yuul Minor III. Dr. Ram and her team have successfully deployed to the colony and are now dealing with the disease outbreak. Meanwhile, Captain Ducasse and Commander Andrews have requested permission to speak with the colony's leader, a Mr. Taran Gant, in regards to the appearance of the Orions in orbit before the Navis arrived. Dr. Ram has allowed the interview to take place, but only on the condition that I accompany them in order to ensure that strict quarantine protocols are adhered to.
Okay. So before we start this in earnest, anything anybody would like to ask? Questions, comments, notes before we get this rolling? No? Alright then. Then let us proceed. Yep, go on.
Dr. Bertram, given that we will have arranged to set up a quarantined area of sickbay or force field offense, etc. for our return.
Alright then. Well then, in that case, let's get this party started. We move our scene to the prefabricated medical facility that was set up very quickly on the planet's surface in order to administer to the sick. And so, clad in their EV suits, Dr. Bertram, Captain Ducasse, and Commander Andrews all enter into the facility's foyer. The door closing shut behind them. There is a brief moment where high-powered medical scanners project flat beams that run up and down their bodies in various different angles before eventually the lights go from blue to green, and the nurse, one of the members of Dr. Ram's team, steps out from behind the console and indicates that it is now safe for them to proceed inside the facility as long as they continue to adhere to the strict quarantine procedures. So, Nurse Pondicod directs you to follow him. So, find yourselves in a narrow corridor flanked on either side by many, many doors. Nurse Pondicod activating the door seal. And you also notice that when you came through that door, there was not exactly a force field, but there was definitely an energy field that you walked through. Dr. Bertram would be able to identify this as one of the many fields that try to basically prevent microbes and other things that could get inside from doing so, and eradicates them if it finds them. You'll no doubt find a number of these types of fields all over the place. Nurse Edafal, after looking at the Nova Fix Vibers, was found in the bar with a pint of whiskey.
Only whiskey? Gotta try harder next time, Nova.
Nurse Pondicod indicates to the door by here and keys in an authorization which opens the door, allowing Andrews, Ducasse, and Bertram admittance. The door is shut behind you, and you imagine Nurse Pondicod goes back to his duties. There is a man of medium years, a human man, on a bio bed, currently wearing a medical gown, who has a number of different readouts going on over him, and kind of unusual, something you don't see all that often with 24th century medical tech. He's actually got a breathing mask, apparently helping him breathe a bit more, whilst also delivering medicine into his system to allow him to fight the symptoms of the disease. There is, of course, another one of Dr. Ram's medical personnel, Nurse Ida Fall, who is currently paying attention mostly to the readouts of the systems before he turns to the three of you. Obviously, my patient is not to be stressed in any way. He is, thankfully, one of the last people who showed signs of infection, purely, apparently, due to the fact that he locked himself in his office in order to try and deal with the many spiraling administrative tasks whilst other people were going sick. He has, however, contracted the disease like everybody else, but his symptoms are less acute. Therefore, you should be able to talk with him freely, but I must stress that he is supposed to be resting. Therefore, please avoid interrogating him too hard, if you could, please. I will still be here in the room. I will be monitoring his vitals. He gives Dr. Bertram a nod, and allows you to talk to Administrator Gant, who is, after noticing you are here, he sits up in the bio bed, swinging his legs over the side, still holding on to the respirator mask, however.
Bertram is basically going to be keeping an eye, like focusing on Andrews and Ducassin himself, making sure all the quarantine things are kept and keeping an eye on our vitals. He's kind of assuming there's pointless keeping an eye on Gant's vitals himself because they've already got Val and their equipment doing so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ducasse steps forward. And because she's wearing an EV suit and because I can't help myself.
Administrator, could you please give us a rundown of what happened?
Administrator Gant gives a nod and pulls the respirator mask away from his face so he can be heard a little better. Of course. Excuse me. I'm not sure what to tell you. It was about a day or so before many of us started noticing that more than a few people were getting sick and very quickly. Before we knew it, we were being basically overrun. Our people were going down, the medical situation was getting dire, and I sent the message to ask for help.
How long ago was it that the infection started? Were there any localized areas, specific people that work on specific areas of the planet?
Good evening, suitable substrate. And to answer Andrews' question. Specific areas? Not so much, not that I can think of, at least. The first one that we noticed that got sick was Old Man Cromwell. He's one of the... not exactly older, but he was basically the guy that persuaded everyone else that this would be an adventure. He comes from a long line of colonizers, so he's one of those guys who's been out in the wild, in the wilderness. One of those real rough and ready guys, you know, the guys who never seem to get sick. So I remember it was when somebody said that he was not feeling well, that everyone thought this was, you know, wow, old man Cromwell finally got sick from something. And within the space of, I think, 2 days, already 3 more people had gotten sick. And they weren't all from the same area. Understand, though, that our colony is still pretty small. No more than about 150 people.
Do you have 1 or 2 drinking water facilities?
We have one primary water purification plant, if that's what you're talking about. Basic stuff that you need to create a colony these days. We, of course, thought that that could be one of our problems, but the technology we got was, well, it's contemporary design. The thing doesn't let microbes in any more than a transporter buffer would, I suppose.
Microbes, unless it's been deliberately tweaked.
You're suggesting that there might be there might be somebody on the planet who's deliberately sabotaged?
Has there been any recent activity from off-world? Ships coming in, requesting resources, habitat, information?
I seem to recall... Go on, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's the fact that you've been left rather alone this close to the Klingon border as well. Worries me slightly.
Well, Commander, Captain, Doctor, we're civilians. This was not a Starfleet registered up. This was a bunch of civilian scientists wanting to explore. Okay, the timing could have been better, but anyone with any brains in their head could scan us and see that we weren't packing any weapons beyond the most basic means of necessities of defense.
Still citizens of the Federation.
Yes, maybe it was somewhat naive of us to think we could escape everything that's going on out there, but... well, our intentions were innocent enough. And in regards to your first question, however, about any other contact, the closest was a long-range contact we had passing through the system about a week and a half ago, standard, I think. They didn't stop for long. They broke out of warp as they entered into the system, but they didn't linger long before they left the system again. Our own sensor suite wasn't fully installed at that point. We'd only been active in the area for 2 weeks by that point, so we couldn't exactly conduct a thorough scan of who may have been passing through. And because nothing happened for days afterwards, we just figured it was another ship passing through the system on survey. Until, of course, the Orions turned up only 2 hours before you did.
Did the Orions say anything as to why they were in the area?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I remember the woman's face. She was trying her best to be genial, but you could just see the implied threat in her face. Either way, she said that they had intercepted our distress call, and because they happened to be in the area, they had medical supplies that we could use to cure ourselves of the ailment that was apparently inflicting our colony. All they asked for in return was unrestricted access to the planet. Which...
was it given?
well, no, that was when you turned up. She let us stew on it for a good hour or so, but she assured us that there was no help coming, and that she was our only option. To be honest, before you arrived, I was about ready to give in. Our people were getting more and more sick, and I felt I was starting to come down with it myself, personally, so... it was lucky you arrived when you did.
Well, it seems to me, Captain, that the Orions want something here.
That much seems evident. The question is, what? Administrator, is there anything significant on this planet? Any valuable resource?
From a standpoint of the Orions, I don't think so. This planet is mostly forested with 1 or 2 jungle and swamp biomes. There were a few geological surveys that displayed evidence of the outlines of structures from a long time ago in this planet's history, which was one of the reasons we came here. Some of our colonists are amateur excavators or civilian archaeologists.
I'm assuming that you would be willing to allow us to have copies of your planetary survey maps.
Of course. They're not exactly fully complete. They were enough so that we could vet the atmosphere and the terrain for anything that could be harmful, biological, radiological, those kind of things. We vetted this place for months to make sure it was safe for humans and humanoids to occupy. We made sure that there were no sentient life forms, no civilizations present. When we confirmed there were no such obstacles to settlement, we started the ball rolling, as it were. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I've answered your questions quite correctly or not. But yes, I will make sure to make our records available to you. Part of the fun we were looking forward to was manually mapping the planet ourselves. This is obviously putting an entirely different spin on the whole situation. I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure how much more help I could be.
I think, from my perspective, Captain, is that he has answered the majority of the questions that I have. I don't think, like he said, there's much more we can learn from this situation. We need to do our own investigations to determine what the Orions are after.
I would concur. Dr. Bertram, is there any avenue of investigation that you would like to suggest while we're here?
The only thing I can think of, and I turn to Bertram turns to Nurse Val and says, "Nurse, would you be willing to provide the information that you and your team have gained on the infection so far? I understand your team is well equipped for determining a cure. The suspicious part of me wonders if there's anything more. Have the Orions knew this infection was there and how they apparently already had a cure in mind to try and deal with the people on this world for. I'm wondering if while you're investigating curing the people, we might be able to get any clues onto the Orion involvement from it. I could be completely barking up the wrong tree, as it were, but...
If you want more specifics on the disease itself, you're going to have to contact Dr. Ram. Her office is to the north at the end of the corridor. I myself have just been issued my marching orders as to what medicines to administer to the patients in order to ease their symptoms, while the doctor works on actually curing it.
Understood. Thank you, Nurse Val.
Thank you, Doctor.
So what do we think? Interview Dr. Ram first, or just simply ask for the records and let her and her team get on with it?
I agree with Dr. Bertram's route first.
Yeah.
We need to get as much information as possible. If this is a manufactured infection, then we need to know how it was dispersed into the colony. Because that may then give us a location potentially to look into.
Yeah. Dr. Ram's team are almost certainly going to be focusing on identifying a cure and protection from it, which means the skills their focus is not going to be investigating the possibility of artificial manufacturing. Hence why I brought up the subject of us actually doing that investigation for them. They're already going to have their hands full trying to help the people here without doing investigation themselves.
Okay. So you would rather just ask for the information and let them get on with it? Maybe conduct your investigation on the ship?
Yeah, Dr. Bertram's thing is, unless there's a good reason to, Dr. Ram and her team shouldn't be distracted from actually doing their job of curing the people.
All right, then. If that's the case, then the captain, the doctor, and the XO are able to leave Tarin Gant to basically get better and leave the facility the same way they came in before they are even though they have to go through quarantine, they are beamed back to the ship.
Just one thing is
Yep.
that are they actually winning on the infection, or are they just currently fighting the symptoms?
Well, you'll know that as soon as you start getting a look as to what's going on. In that regard, back on the Navis, with repairs are, of course, what's being focused on for the most part. So any and every able-bodied crew member who has any engineering experience is being pulled in to assist with repairing the damage that was done via the sabotage. The security alert status on the ship has not gone down. Lieutenant Bravo, head of security, has insisted that there still be active members of the security personnel roving about and patrolling on the ship, checking everything to make sure you haven't got any unintended visitors. Those who have also got similar expertise are, in regards to engineering at least, are combing their way through the various computer systems in order to ensure that there's not a single little trace of any invasive program left behind by the saboteur, Lieutenant Hunsley. Even though he willingly handed over all the details that he had on such a thing, and you did manage to crack open and investigate the datapad that was used to deliver and to in effect control that invasive program. So those of the crew who are working on trying to make sure that the computer systems are eradicated have got a working template to go from, and therefore have no problem in that regard. So that does give Dr. Bertram and whoever gets called in to help the ability to maybe start looking at the notes that the disease response team have accumulated over the makeup of the virus itself. So, this might be a good opportunity for somebody to bring in Nurse Bravo for assistance. Just for a bit of extra help. Because I don't think anybody else from... Then again, from Natala's department, science department, we do have Ensign Keval, who has biology and genetics, because she's in the physical sciences division.
Bring her in. With Curse, can we change it from... I was thinking about this on the way home from work. Can we change it from emergency investigation training to emergency... Oh, no, I can't remember the wording now. I wanted it. Specialisation. Yeah, from training to specialisation, so that she's a specialist in emergency situations.
Okie dokie.
It's just as I thought on the wording home, I was like, specialist sounds better than that she's had the training for it, because technically we've all had the training for it.
Is anyone else finding Webby a bit quiet, or is it just me?
He does tend to sit away from his mic a bit.
Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah, that's better.
So, emergency investigation...
Specialist.
Expertise or specialist. She was determined to do better after her last performance. Okay then, so she, as a supporting character, has gained a focus of emergency investigation specialist. Alrighty. So, let's see. Bertram is going to be investigating. Bravo and Keval can be assisting. So, who wants to be Nurse Bravo? Who wants to be Ensign Keval? Anybody wants to nominate yourselves? Otherwise, I'll nominate you. Going once, going twice. Jan, you've been rather quiet. You alright?
Yep.
How about you be either Keval or Bravo, whichever one you fancy.
Will be Keval. I was a Bravo before.
Okie dokie.
Once a
Bit
Bravo,
of change.
always a Bravo. You're my Bravo now.
Until we are all Bravos. Let's see. Are we letting Davis near dice tonight?
It's been a while.
Been a week at least. So,
Or are we
who am I
putting,
rolling Madrid for?
Are we putting Shaun on Nurse Bravo just to be safe?
Possibly.
It's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late now. You offered it to Navis, so it's like we can't.
Okay.
We can let Alex roll as well.
We could have the ship assisting.
Could have the ship assisting, absolutely. Alex could get
Alex
into
to
the ship.
Okay.
Okay, what do I need as the ship?
Right then, so that's the maximum number of assistings. So the good Dr. Bertram will not be able to add any extra dice to this. Let's see, shields would have been repaired a bit by now, and power would have gone up somewhat after the shenanigans, but that's not the correct mission directive. So for the ship, let's see, it's going to be sensors and... No, it's not going to be sensors, it's going to be computers and medicine, because you're going to be comparing it to known things for the Navis. As for Nurse Bravo and Ensign Feazal, let's see, insight or reason and medicine, using any of their medical-based focuses will be more than adequate, and I'm going to put this at a difficulty of 2.
Medical diagnostics?
Yep, sure.
Or virology?
Virology works better.
I think I'm bad dice.
Feazal would use genetics, maybe?
Yep, that sounds like a good one. Trying to break down the virus's genetics to see what can be ascertained. Okay, so the ship isn't sure, but the good doctor, as per usual. Ensign Feazal does assist with her knowledge of genetics, so yeah. The virus bears genetic similarities to the Telegrite pox and the Andragian flu. Thankfully, the former mentioned pox, it seems that the disease on Yuul Minor did not generate the itchy, scarring lesions that the virus it has similarities to does, but they have this disease has a virulence that is pretty high, but the similarities to these two different known viruses is almost a little too convenient. And the most interesting thing you discover, you did earn a momentum for that as well, let me quickly put that in there. The more interesting thing about it is the more you analyze the genetic sequence of this virus and run a couple of simulations on it, you see that the virus itself has had its virulence almost ramped up at the cost of its lifespan. In fact, you're pretty certain this virus would have burnt itself out after about 5 or 6 days.
So that combination of a very high potent virulence combined with a very short lifespan is kind of, to my mind, ideal for someone who wants to harm people but doesn't actually want the danger to lurk around the site once it's done.
Vaguely reminds me of the bubonic plague.
No, because viruses will naturally try and make sure that they can infect as many people as long as possible.
Exactly.
But all that other thing, it burnt out. That was the only reason it went away. The population died off.
Now, back on the bridge, Commander Natala, trying to coordinate her science teams to assist with engineering and to pore meticulously through the various computer systems whilst they're on diagnostic mode. Everything's on a level 1 diagnostic at this point, which of course takes a long time. Natala gets a notice on the sensors, on the external sensors.
We have here.
There's a power emanation coming from Yuul Minor, but from the opposite side of the planet as the colony.
And I think the Orions might still be down there.
Well, there's a way of... the captain turns around to face Natala. What makes you say that?
There are some power readings coming some distance from the colony site. Well, practically the opposite side of the planet.
Can we confirm that it's Orion in nature?
Not
to that
confirmed
end-
yet, Captain.
To that end, I will give you a difficulty 1 control and science coupled with, and Shaun can do this one, you could be the Navis. If Shaun wants to be the Navis, aiding Natala with sensors and science. So anything that Navis generates at this point is gravy for the boat. That's exactly what you needed, okay? So, yes. Natala uses the sensors to get a somewhat better scan. The best you're able to get is that, yes, it's around the other side of the planet, but the power signature seems to be coming from under the surface. The power wave signature suggests artificial in nature, but it's difficult to tell at the distance you're at and the fact that it's subterranean.
Can't be certain if it's Orion nature, but it is certainly subterranean. Possibly some kind of deep excavator.
A sudden power source discovered not long after we arrive, with Orions in the area and a plague that may or may not be manufactured. Thoughts, number 1?
I think it's worthwhile investigating, Captain. It's too convenient.
I agree.
This is not the first time that we've encountered Orions on an archaeological site.
No, it's
there
not.
could be something down there that is of interest to them.
I agree that the mission would be best served by finding basically any advantage we can get over that Orion captain. Finding what she's looking for on the planet would certainly do that.
I agree. Number 1, put together an away team. Probably better taking Natala along for this one, and anybody else you want to keep occupied. Like maybe Nova.
Thank you, Captain.
Well, you know she can't be left to her own devices for too long. Otherwise, Nova things happen.
I'm just going to press my comm badge at that point and it's like, Andrews to Fibers, how's the warp nacelle doing?
Starboard is coping okay. Port, I'm not looking.
It was the starboard one that Nova actually, and I'm using
That's why
the
it's
term
looking
loosely
okay.
here, fixed. So yeah, that's why it's looking okay, quite.
Oh, sorry, I should have said, Andrews to Mr. Minoko, can you please rouse Commander Vipers for a report on the status of the nacelles?
Other potential options for if we do need to search an Orion ship for a cure. Mr. Edwards, how close is your sonic weapon ready for testing of ship-to-ship combat simulations for disabling and disorienting enemy bridge crews? Operation, we are experiencing high call volumes at this time.
Currently, it's only a handheld one. As soon as I field test it, I'll then be working on a ship-to-ship use. I've not had a chance to use it yet, but looking forward to having it deployed by someone that knows how to use it.
Well, in that case, Mr. Edwards, it seems that you've just volunteered for this away mission with your new sonic weapon.
Certainly. Commander.
Possibly a volunteer from security to be the
That's what I was thinking.
wielder.
Someone with maybe a bit better aim, but yes.
Keval, how do you feel about an away mission?
Sorry, Captain, was that me you're referring to?
It was indeed. You are, after all, just sitting here looking impressive.
Well, seeing as I've mastered that skill, I might just as well go.
Very good, Commander.
Keval's special skill, sitting there looking impressive. Can that be a talent now?
It'd be a more useful focus than my fencing.
You never know. Didn't we use fencing at least once?
Yeah, we've used it once or twice.
Yeah.
We really had to finagle it in to allow it to be allowed. Like,
I was pretty impressed that you managed it, which is why I allowed it. Bio unit captain seems to be a little snarky this day. Well, when you consider that she's had her ship sabotaged, and she's basically got her chief engineer who's going greyer by the minute.
it's fine. We just stick him in another host. It's fine. Yeah, it's just we just put him in. We just put him in a new host. Problem solved. It's like Triller just recyclable.
He is, after all, merely a meat bus, so yeah.
Yeah.
We just let him get on with it.
It's sort of like, oh no, the meat bus is dying. Well, we'll get another one lined up.
Okay, so the away team will be Andrews. If Keval's willing to be the quote end quote security guy with better aim. Well, pull Nova along because you can't leave her alone on the ship unsupervised. Edwards, just in case the sonic weapon needs seeing too. Natala, because, well, her teams are going to basically be doing diagnostics for hours on end and don't necessarily need to be supervised, so since Natala found the energy signature, it's prescient that she also goes, so that just leaves the Doctor and the Chief Engineer, whether they're going or whether they're putting proxies in their place.
I think it would be worthwhile bringing the Doctor or a medical person if we are potentially going to be exposed to the mutagen or the virus.
So, what's your thoughts then? We're getting the Doctor, the Doc himself. Okay, groovy. That's cool.
Yeah,
That answered my question as I was asking it. I like that.
Even
No
though
waste.
he's fairly confident that everyone is competent and won't get overexcited and accidentally expose themselves picking up shiny bits of rusted metal, I'm not looking at anyone in particular.
But I want you to know, I'm watching.
I've happened to be where I stand now. I happen to be looking over the
Vibus
direction
is
of
going-
hello.
Vibes
Anyone who's directly in between
going,
me and
I have
hello
a
who might be
ship
looking at.
fix.
Yeah,
Wow, that was an
Keval.
interesting comment.
The Doctor's just not sure we would pick up any moss that might be there. That's why he's going.
Well, yes.
Oh god.
Mostly forests and swamps and a couple of swamps and jungles, so.
Well, I wasn't going
Absolutely.
to say I'd noted those, but
He'd noted those.
yes.
Right, so that leaves someone for Davis to be, basically.
So the engineer's going to be. Vibers is kind
engineering
of busy.
stuff.
There's a
Yeah.
ship that needs sorted. But with this bigger crew, I think this is a problem that deserves a Bravo bomb.
Ha ha ha! Alright then.
Because you've got that bigger group, we definitely need security.
Yes, and we've got Keval and Bravo security then. So we've got a security heavy team as well, because Andrews is security
Yep.
trained, so.
Well, you are looking out for Orion, folks, so it's probably not the worst idea. So, let me start that again. In the items section on the right, under character weapons, subfolder Starfleet weapons, you should find the sound gun. So whoever wants to be the soul carrying that around can do so. And if there's any other bits of equipment you think you guys might need, now would be the time to start equipping up. Yes, Jan.
I was just wondering if you want to carry the prototype, or shall I carry it?
I'm quite happy to let someone else use that weapon.
It's almost like you don't trust it.
So Keval's there like, dang, Try someone
Weapon
else.
designed by the guy who always makes things explode.
No, that only happened once with us. The
It was designed by #only human on the ship.
Guy that
least it
wanted
was
to
the
electrocute an entire room full of people.
Yeah, don't trust them solids.
What was that you were saying, Jan? We can't cut you off there.
At least it wasn't the Vulcan design.
Fair play. It's not
Alrighty.
Vulcan anyway, it's fake Romulans.
All right. So, you've got your team. Are there any other bits of equipment that you want to take with you, or are you all right with everything that you've got as default loadout?
EVA suits, boys.
Yeah, and is Andrew's default loadout now just a Type 3 phaser every time?
Not to mention the Klingon Ducktag.
Hey, the Ducktag was a gift,
Was.
so it's always there.
Do we need anti-gravity sled? Because I see I've still got one of my inventory.
You never know.
I can just imagine this been riding around there now.
I also have a
The
plasma
Chief Helm
torch.
Officer. Sorry, Jan. Sorry, I talked over you there.
I said I also have a plasma torch.
See, I've only got the basic stuff and the medical stuff like communicator, laser scalpel, hypospray, hyrolichon, glomeromycota, Bertram, Mars. No, only the basics.
So this apparently is what the Helm Officer gets up to when he's bored. When the ship's stationary, he goes around careening around the corridors on the anti-grav sleds.
He's
Surfing on the anti-grav sled.
He's actually
Anti-grav sled
secretly-
racing.
He's actually it's an anti-grav sleigh. He's anti-grav Santa Claus.
And then I mount the plasma torch on front, and that's my weapons.
On Christmas Eve, he turns it red so it lights his anti-grav sleigh by night.
Which deck of the ship has the longest corridor that he could just be surfing it down?
That would be the
Holodeck. It seems
shuttle
to-
bay, probably.
I know the holodeck seems to be exactly the same size as it needs to be, no matter how big it physically is. You never see someone chasing, Dixon Hill and then Dixon Hill running into a wall that he can't see.
I've often wondered that myself. I was watching an episode of The Next Generation, and Picard's there on horseback, and I'm thinking, is he just static? And the thing is
Have you not
moving
seen-
around him.
Yeah, have you not seen the movable floors that you can get now for VR?
I was going to say the floor's
No.
just an omnidirectional treadmill.
Yeah, if it's an omnidirectional, like Shaun said, if it's an omnidirectional treadmill, then the floor moves with the actual person. So
so
you
long as
never
you don't have
reach
two
the edge.
people on horses riding in opposite directions.
Yes.
So
Well, no,
what
you
you
can even do it if they're not on the same square.
So what you're saying is, if there's a problem, the safety protocols go off. Not only can the hologrammatic people kill you, but the movable floor is likely to hurl you into the wall to win you.
Well, the holo simulation didn't kill him, but the floor certainly did.
Well,
He hit
we
the
now
wall at
have,
max 6.
Turning it off mid-horse riding.
Well, anybody who's watched Strange New Worlds knows of Enterprise Bingo, and now apparently there's Navis Bingo, where you at least at one point have to try surfing down the shuttle bay on an anti-grav sled. And you have to try and see what happens when two people go in opposite directions when you're on the holodeck.
And then there's the extreme version with the anti-grav said that you're racing is a quantum torpedo.
See, chicken, you just sort of like charge at each other on quantum torpedoes to see which one dives out the way first. And guess
Ba-boom.
what? For even more fun, they're both armed.
Who quits first? Yikes. I can tell you who quits last. The one who didn't
The
quit.
torpedoes?
Anyway. Serious stuff. Serious stuff. Starfleet, serious stuff. Alright then, so, folks, yeah, quite. So, folks have got EV suits just in case. Folks have either got rid of or are keeping the various weird bits that they've already found in their inventories from previous adventures. So I'm taking it you're going armed and with the usual gubbins like tricorders and such, because there's no real reason to take much else. Dagger. Dagger, 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 mushroom, mushroom.
Nova just stabbed someone.
Yes, that's a
Not
point.
that you can
Nova.
prove.
Nova still has an Orion dagger from the dude she fought with that one time whilst on the Narendra station.
You give it.
He yes.
It
We
was
put
given
the word
freely
gave
with
in
minimal
inverted commas.
resistance.
So, with nothing else that you guys want to grab, you are eventually given the go-ahead to beam down to the surface. Unless there's anything else you want to get, now is the last time to do it. Nope. All right. So, beaming down onto the surface, you find that the surface is pretty much as was indicated to. It's mostly forests, and so you follow Natala, who has got the reading from the original sensor reading from the Navis, and whilst you're on the ground, you start tracking the signal until you eventually come to what looks like a sinkhole. Let me turn off the ship sounds, because you are down on the surface. Now, the place is very pleasant, as you might imagine, an untouched forest. Not a forest world exactly, but forest covers a great deal of it, and it's certainly the area that you yourselves are currently interested in. So, after being cooped up on the ship for a good bit, for those who come from planets where such biomes are the norm, then this is actually a reasonably pleasant outing if it wasn't for the fact that you had to wear these clunky big EV suits. But
I mean,
yes,
we don't have to.
You don't have to, but both the doctor and the second officer might look at you a certain way if you don't.
How pleasant there is known to be a virulent pandemic going on this world.
Now, I think I'm short a character token. Nope, there he is. I found him. Edward was lurking somewhere.
He's changed into Keval.
Ah, so he is a changeling.
And then they split to become two separate entities once again.
Hang on, what would we get?
Of Edwards.
I am my own person. Yeah, but the captain says no, so you die.
The readings eventually lead you to a hole, as you can see on the map ahead of you. For the most part, it seems that a chucklot of sediment has fallen through, and there appears to be an empty space beneath. Anybody who wants to try and use their tricorders to have a good old look at what might be down there can feel free to do so.
Certainly sounds appropriate.
So this will be another control and what? Oop, you've already done it. You're already there. Woohoo! Okay, never mind me.
Roll and science, presume.
Control and science, yes indeed. So
While they scan the hole, I'm going to scan the life and vegetation around here.
to the surprise of no one. If
Even
Edwards
with
wants to do it, sorry, go on.
So, I was like, considering we're potentially looking for maybe archaeological remnants, would metallurgy or actually xenoarchaeology actually be a reasonable focus?
Yeah, you can assist Natala's whatever, unless you roll ahead of time. Anyway, never mind.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Okay.
I want to get rid of Alex's one. I can't help with Dr. Bertram.
Okay.
Is the doctor going to get infected by some sort of moss? I've just been like bitterly ironic.
Yes, infected by moss. Like that's never happened before. The humans must never know.
Oh wait, I appear to have lost my inner monologue. Right. For both Bertram and Edwards, there appears to be a good amount of sensor distortion going on with the tricorders, and Natala likewise. Natala can at least going on what she can see and what little the tricorder is reporting back can confirm the presence of the power source somewhere down that hole, but the issue being that whatever is generating this power, it's quite far down from what you can tell, but it's also generating a kind of interference which is making it difficult to get any definite readings on, well, anything.
Does this hole look like it was a collapse, or whether it was artificially made, like drilled?
Good question. And for the sake of building up your momentum pool, let's allow you to determine that yourself. Let's see.
Can I support on that with survival?
Sure. In fact, if you've got survival, then it might be better if it was the other way around, with Keval aiding and Andrews primarying it, as long as Jan's okay with that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Keval could voice that question out loud, so...
Yeah. So maybe insight and science from both Keval and Andrews.
Engineering, maybe?
Yeah, engineering would be better than science.
Okay, a case can be made. Yeah, I can go for that. And I'll make this difficulty 0.
I don't think I can actually get a successful roll if it was medicine.
And yet. Okay, so Andrews and Fazanan taking a good look at the hole from a safe distance. Excuse me. Take a look at it, and the hole appears to be. It looks like there's a structure underneath, some kind of structure. Difficult to tell from here, of course, because it's basically covered in sediment and soil and tree roots and actual trees. But the hole seems to have been naturally occurring. Whatever part of the structure that's holding up the ground that you're currently standing on gave way by there and created essentially a sinkhole. So there appears to be empty space down there. So, with that knowledge, what would you like to do?
Did anybody bring a rope?
Well, wouldn't that have been forethought?
Don't EVA suits have some kind of stabilizing boosters? Because they're good for space.
For spacewalks, yes.
They aren't ideal for in gravity.
Yeah.
If only we had, say, an anti-gravity sled.
If only we had a transporter of some sort.
That's crazy. Why would you be crazy like that?
One that might
Of
require,
course,
say...
that's why you're in medical and I'm just security.
So, what would you think about... Would it be better to put these pattern enhancers that I brought around the hole, or would it be better to javelin them at the bottom?
I'm all for javeling them at the bottom. That sounds dangerous.
Dropping the pattern enhancers down and see how far they go, and then beam yourselves down into it. Yeah, sure. What do the rest of you think? The question was put to the group.
I think drop a light in first.
Yeah. drop something that's easy to see.
Yep. You could easily detach one of your one of the wrist-mounted lamps or some such from your EV suits to drop it down and have a quick looky-loo to see how far down it goes. Who would like to? Well, anyone could do it, so let's just say. whoever wants to do that will find that they reckon the distance to some kind, and you definitely hear the light clatter against hard floor, and it echoes a fair amount, so there's a fairly wide open space down there. The drop was probably about 8 to 10 feet at most. So it's not a huge distance, but one that you'd probably have to, you know, brake for when you land.
As long as you know how to bend your legs, you could reasonably just hop down there.
Yeah. Okay.
So it could be reasonable then to put these up here, just to make sure that we can reasonably still get some use of teleporters or transporters to at least the general area of where we went in.
Uh-huh. Yep, no problem there. Everybody alright with that? Okay. With that in mind then, with the pattern enhancers put around the actual hole itself, Lloyd on the transporter controls can verify that the signal is being received, and therefore he's got a good lock on that general area, so whoever wants to proceed in first can do so. I'm going to
Go on then,
Nova.
Yeah. I was about to say go on, security goons, but no, she's already gone for it. All right.
I volunteer as tribute.
So, Nova, yeah, can basically lower herself in and drops down. The distance, like I said, is fair, but not to the point of injury unless you really tweak your ankle. But these EV suits are fairly sturdy jobs anyway, so you're okay. Nova can confirm that it's a drop, but it's not a terrible drop, and as she looks around, she can see that there's a definitely fabricated space, because it's full of, corners. Looks like it might be something like an apartment block or an office space or something like that at one point, because it's wide open and there's what looks like furniture. For the most part, there's just debris covering the floor. The floor
Strangest
itself.
rabbit hole I ever did see.
So, the rest of you should be okay to drop down if you want to. According to Nova. So that all comes down to whether or not you believe her.
Well, prototype's not going to test itself. So.
Nice.
I believe her. I can hear her mind. She's obviously telling the truth. On top of that, I'm sure that comment had an insult in it for anyone who doesn't jump.
Give me a second.
I think Natala was third or fourth in, simply out of the nope, don't leave anyone on their own. Buddy system, Nova, buddy system.
I didn't bring Hello. He's working operations.
That's what she thinks.
Gone to the trash compactor in the sky.
It's like, your hello has been turned into a cube. You have 10 minutes to remove your cube.
Alright. The rest of you join Nova and find yourselves in, obviously, a fabricated environment. It is, obviously, from coming down from the hole, you find a mound of debris and sediment that can partly cushion your fall. Before anyone has a chance of moving, let me just freeze the game right there. So, your suit lamps, I hope, illuminate the space, and you can see evidence of structural collapse in places. Just as you drop down, you do get a incoming comm notice.
Navis to away, team.
Go ahead, Captain.
Commander, we've just noticed our old friends, the Orions, have just returned to orbit. I've just been informed they're activating transporter beams. I'd be on your guard if I were you. At that point, I am going to... where is it? The shimmer of transporters arrives in the air not far from yourselves, and a whole gang of Orions, each of them armed and led by the very same woman that introduced herself before. Flank, as well as the a motley collection of Orions sporting disruptor pistols and weapons. The woman who identified herself as Lalani Tarn is also flanked by a pair of identical young males. And you can definitely detect a strong family resemblance. Now that you see her, Tarn is tall and actually very well muscled, and has a very definitive, almost neon bright kind of marking down the left side of her face that starts above her left brow and comes down to her cheek. The two flanking twins have a similar but smaller marking on just their left cheeks. At which point she says, "Why, hello there, fellow excavators. Isn't this funny that we both find ourselves in the same place? Well, I'm sure you're asking yourselves, what could these visitors possibly want with a nasty old place like this? Well, I'm here to tell you that this place, believe it or not, has cultural and historical significance to the Orions. You see, whether or not you Federation types pay attention to this kind of thing, the Orions had our own empire at one point. And this place? Well, this was one of our many outposts. So we're here on an archaeological mission, investigating our own history, as it were. So you'll excuse us if we have a look for items of cultural significance to ourselves. You're free to look around, of course, but I would appreciate it very much if you do locate any items of significance to turn them over, especially because they are ancient Orion historical relics. I'm sure we'll meet each other as we do the rounds. Excuse us." And the Orions don't just disappear, they kind of turn around and start filing out in different directions as they break up into teams and head out into different parts of the ruin. Now, empathy bluff check. Whilst that was going on, absolutely. Insight and command from Nova, please. I'll give it a difficulty of 2. Edwards looks over to Bravo, then at the Sonic Stun
Bravo assist?
Bravo can
telepathy
indeed
for Bravo.
assist. Bravo also has a focus of telepathy, so insight and command 1 dice.
As soon as
for
Edwards
Bravo.
looks over at Bravo, Andreas will look out for Bravo and shake her head and say, "At this moment, they have not been hostile. We can't prove anything."
And that shaking head was enough to distract Bravo from what he was trying to do.
Let's get this. I don't think I can.
Not, usually,
I'll steal the momentum because what?
Yeah, steal it. Why not? We don't need momentum.
We'll learn some later, maybe. Oh dear.
Okay, so Tarn exudes a cruel confidence to her, or did when she was there. And there is surety to her emotional state. When she was talking about Orion historical artifacts and whatnot, there was definitely, I mean, it didn't take a genius, an empath to detect it, but there were definitely overt feelings of, well, threat. She was issuing a less than veiled threat. And Nova believes that she absolutely intends to carry out the threat. As far as the veracity of them being here to discover Orion heirlooms, it's not entirely clear, but she's arrived here with a good degree of confidence emanating from her, and more than a small amount of danger. So, make that what you will. So, at the moment, there is a lot of debris covering the floor. Therefore, your the away team's progress will be slowed as a result, and there is plenty, pardon me, space to cover. As the team, the away team starts moving around, not just in this small area that I've outlined here on this map, but as the away team proceeds to start investigating this particular floor, they do discover evidence that it is just one of the top floors, if not the actual top floor, of a building of some sort, because you come across evidence of stairways, even an elevator access shaft.
Can we ask the Navis to start doing? Well, I know we're in the middle of diagnostics, but to see if we can dig up any information on if what she's saying has any merit to it.
Okay.
Because we will have had potential records of how large the Orion Empire was before it collapsed.
Before we explore too deeply, I would quite like to focus what reading we can get here, at least at first, on safety. We don't want to be walking into rooms and corridors that are going to collapse with us inside them.
Indeed, and before we get any further with that, Alex was going to make a point.
I was just going to say, Edward throughout this is going to be making note of the architecture and seeing if it actually resembles any cultural similarities to old Orion things and that. Given his history on the remand with Orions,
yeah, okay,
you might have a bit more of an insight.
In that case, can I get, if Natala's going to be scanning for safety hazards, Edwards could also be scanning at the same time, and therefore aid Natala in order to try and get a readout of the architecture in order to compare it to other types of architecture, and therefore give you maybe a better idea as to what you might be dealing with. I will make this a difficulty 2, because you've already had trouble scanning the interior of this due to energy emissions, but now because the place is dark and subterranean and possibly more than a little dangerous, I'm going to make it difficulty 2. So, the usual tricorder scans, control and science. 2
I'm
dice.
going to be good for rolling 3 dice at this point because of testing a theory and
Okay.
basically what I'm doing currently.
And anything that Edwards wants to add to it?
What the heck?
Working alongside Natala, so you're fine, but oh dear.
This is the most I've ran a roll in one session. But I've had 2 rolls and 3 rolls, and I've had like
2 complications so far.
Yeah.
Interesting. In any
Yet
case,
again, something's rigged.
I'd like to confirm if there was actual rigging going on, but in the end, it just seems that Forge doesn't like you. 3d10, and that's actually a reasonable roll for 3d10, so... That was just testing dice, I take it there.
Pretty much.
Cool. Just to see if they all came up as ones or something, was it? Or 20s?
Pretty much.
Okay. Natala has a good scan around, and, yeah. Let me see. Luckily for you, Natala scans around enough to be able to identify some very problem areas where the floor is not stable or walls look like they're about to cave in. More than likely due to age. This place, though it looks sturdy in construction, this thing is very, very old. Best guess from someone like Edwards, just going on what Edwards could probably look at, we're probably talking several millennia.
Several millennia is well before the Orion Empire, is it not?
Don't know. At the moment, Edwards is having trouble remembering anything in that regard. And if to have sent a message up to the Navis, as has rightly already been pointed out, all the computer systems are currently being trawled through for a level 1 diagnostic, so any interrogation of Federation historical databases is going to take some time to come back with a return, so you might have to wait for that information to come back to you.
Andrew's divivers work faster.
However, Natala does manage to get the impression that there are more floors below this one, and that the energy signature seems to be coming from what looks to be the lowest level. About... how many more levels? Let me see. 1, 2... 3 more levels down seems to be the base of this particular structure, and that seems to be where the energy signature is coming from.
So, shall we start at the bottom and work our way back up?
Well, to do that, you're going to have to get to the bottom.
Well, it's a lift shaft.
There is indeed a lift shaft. So, this is going to be something of a delicate process, but if your best and fittest are able to pave the way for those less so, then as a team you should be able to make it without much of a problem. So this kind of situation would probably entail an Andrews, a Thazanan, and a Bravo. And let's see, with no one adding any extra momentum, you could get one more to help with that. I am going to pull in a point of threat, however, to up the complication range, because if anybody slips, they've got a long way down.
Now, we do have EVA suits, and some of these materials might be magnetic, so we could potentially use some of the magnetic properties of the EVA to assist.
This is still going to be difficulty 3, however, because a lot of the walls still in the elevator shaft do not look entirely stable. Not to mention that there's still water dripping in from the surface, which appears to have been what's caused most of the erosion of this structure down here. So, would you like to identify your primary for the elevator-based shenanigans?
Probably
No?
me.
I was going to go with Andrews then, if no one was going to volunteer. And who want to be the ones aiding? I think at this point...
Security, Natala?
Security,
I wouldn't use
Natala,
too many, because I can use the determination if needs be.
That's entirely up to you to determine.
We'll see how everyone else is doing, and then. But I think we'll use security, and Andrews.
Okie dokie. So they pave the way for the others to come after them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. No problem. like I said, difficulty 3. This is more than likely going to be fitness and...
Security.
Yeah, because this is mostly going to be a physical endeavor. So if Thazanan and Bravo can give me 1 dice, single dice checks on fitness and security, and that'll then leave Andrews to do the primary with 2 dice. 1 success each so far, so good. You just need 1 more success to beat the difficulty.
Right, so we said it was fitness security, didn't we? Fitness security.
We did.
Survival training.
Sure. That bit looks unstable, don't step there. Kind of thing. 4!
Nice.
Double 1! Wow! Zoiks alive. Alright, with Andrews and Thazanan and Bravo working together, you are able to go down a good level or so before it becomes obvious that the shaft becomes dangerous further down, so you are forced to disembark. Without reaching the bottom, you are going to have to chance going through the other levels and finding another way down. But you do get enough successes to you can guide the entire team down a safe route to get to the next level down. So let's send you there. Where do we start? Here.
Do we... I'd like to say that we'd have done it to try and sort of like make it less obvious that we're going down a level from the Orions.
Doing it quietly or stealthily.
As much as you can in EV suits, yes.
Yeah.
Go on,
Are
Sean.
the Orions wearing EVs?
No, they're not. Go on, Sean.
I was going to say Nova could try and assist with that with her infiltration knowledge.
Sure.
So wait, so the Orions aren't wearing suits?
No,
No,
because
they're
it's
not.
almost like they put the virus in place, but
Mm-hmm.
can't prove it. We've got no leads to prove it at this moment in time.
Though, potentially, if it's key not to affect their genetic sequence, then potentially...
Again, could be coincidence.
Well, if someone gets hurt and we administer aid... we could
Is
probably keep
Edwards-
the biological sample.
Is Edwards voicing this suspicion out loud?
Quietly.
Okay. Bertram would know from looking at the virus like he did that there was no evidence of targeted gene whatever, that thing that you do where you actually make a virus
Gene sequencing.
apply only to certain species or for it to ignore certain species. There was no evidence of that.
To be honest, in Bertram's mind, if you go into genetically create something like that and be immune to it, but not want people to know you did it, it would actually be better for you to create it alongside the vaccine and use the vaccine to protect yourself. Because if you leave genetic markers there to
More
protect
obvious.
yourself, it may as well be holding the big flag saying, just to let you know, the Orions created me.
Yeah, quite. Go on.
Yeah, just about that one. Edwards, you've studied these things, the Orions and the history. Have they ever been known to be nice to each other? Or actually care?
Looks to GM.
It's difficult.
It's entirely possible that the captain might only have vaccinated herself and her, I'm going to say, brothers.
She might not have vaccinated anyone and just gone, whoever survives, woohoo, we win.
Right. As an historian, Edwards can remember that no one's ever been able to confirm whether or not the Orions actually had an empire. It's rumored that they might have, and for the most part, this is difficult to verify because there is evidence that at some point the Orions as a species, were enslaved by another power. Who that power was, the GM can't remember off the top of his
But
head.
even that is kind of historical because
Yeah, long time ago.
all we really know is that they've got trade links going to civilizations from back when Earth people were pretty much just still throwing rocks at each other. They had interplanetary trade going.
So if there
Post-slavery.
was, sorry, I talked over you there.
Yeah.
So if there was an empire, it was probably pre them being taken away and enslaved. So it's not impossible, but it's not been verified by any credible sources as far as Edwards can remember. And as far as Edwards is concerned, Orions are folks best avoided where possible. At least when he was a civilian.
Buggers.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Whereas Fibers is like, hey!
my
As an
people.
aside, is the answer to this question of the Orion history in the animated series? Because I haven't watched that episode, if so. It's possible it is.
I'd have to look it up again, because I did look. I swear I did look. I have trawled Memory Alpha more than once. And I also have watched some of Certifiably Endgame's YouTube videos on the various species, so shout out to Certifiably Endgame. Endgame. Tell me who you are and I'll remember. If you're even watching this. So yeah, I do remember either reading it or watching something about it. I forget if there was a reference point. If it was the old animated series, that would make a certain amount of sense, but at the same time.
Oh, it's been ages since I've seen the animated series. And
Me too.
I can't remember whether it does or doesn't go into the Orion.
I don't recall either, but for the most part, that's all that Edwards, the resident historian here, can remember. Orions equals, as you say, shifty beggars. Best stayed away from unless you have an entire team of well-armed people with you. Or indeed a gigantic battleship, as it turns out.
Oh, we're quite fine, yeah.
Yeah. Andrews to Navis. Can we have Mr. Claude?
Oh, we want to save him for Planet 4.
Yeah, we just things are getting worse. Just drop the Claude.
I'm sorry, Commander. Court's necessary in engineering. He's standing in front of the port nacelle and stopping the engineers from coming in.
I thought you were going to say he's stopping it from falling off.
Yeah. Claude,
He's the
just
one holding the ship
He-
together.
The only reason the engineering team's sane enough to fix the other one is by not looking at Nova's work.
Again, Novud was the one repairing the starboard nacelle, so it's your team that repaired the port nacelle.
That's just how bad they've gotten. They don't
Yeah.
know where they are on the ship.
We're just like,
I love how somehow now Nova's method of engineering has become this eldritch, arcane thing that drives you mad to look upon, as if Nova is gaining her inspiration from intelligences beyond the void.
Well, we
No,
thought it was normal, and then we looked at it, and now we know.
She just looks in between the spheres and sees the truth. The
They
horrible
just don't know
truth.
the function of the rubber duck. That's what's doing.
just a random rubber duck.
So there's now a nest of wires that defy Euclidean geometry or something, I don't know. Anyway, getting back to the matter at hand. Yes, you come out of the elevator shaft, which was around about here-ish, and fall onto a floor that has seen better times. But at the moment, your options of going forwards are a little bit limited due to the overall state of the place. So it appears eastward at the moment is your only available path forwards. You can, from your vantage point, see that there's more ahead. Right, you don't like the look of that floor, but I am going to... I'm going to ask Bravo to give me a fitness and con task, please. Difficulty... Right, you're either drawing a Christmas tree, or you're trying to map out your lines of vision.
It just looked like a Christmas tree, so I thought I'd wear it.
Okay, so
I can't
yeah.
find any rings.
Okay. Security protocol help?
Sure.
Cool.
I can be persuaded. Oh dear. Right then.
Oh.
Do. Bravo tentatively puts his boot forward to test the ground. It shifts a little bit, but then seems to settle. At which point, Bravo reckons, okay, and puts the other boot forward. At which point, the ground isn't quite so forgiving on the second step. And sadly, there is a crack and a crunch and a whoa as Bravo tumbles through the floor as it gives way.
Am I close enough to try and make a dive for him? Sorry.
I'd say that Andrew would probably be more astute at trying to dive for him.
It's more, as I said, proximity.
Distance. Yeah. Proximity, yes. Let's see. Now, in any other game, this would be something like a reflex save or a dexterity type event. I am going to allow Andrews and Edwards to try a joint run and grab. That will be a fitness and security thing at difficulty 3. To grab a tumbling... to grab a tumbling security chief.
And then which one is it that I need to roll to see whether I get it right?
And I am going to up the complication range, because if you get this wrong, you're going in the hole as well.
I can never... no, it's veteran, isn't it?
Natala isn't angry, she's just disappointed.
Yeah, slash 1d6, come on!
Yay, effect!
Yay, got my determination back. Boosh. So fitness and security.
If you please.
Survival training, can I use the foci?
Sure, why not?
Boosh! I got it.
Boosh, indeed. So if Edwards wants to roll anything, just to see if there's any complication.
Come on, do it!
Excellent.
Third time lucky.
So both Edwards and Andrews respond reflexively as they see Bravo suddenly disappear down the floor. They both leap forwards, each grabbing a hand, preventing Bravo from actually falling down to the next floor. Bravo's just kind of dangling there now, feet swinging in an empty void.
Gears training kicks in.
But those who are hanging on to Bravo can actually see the distance to go, and if Bravo had fallen uncontrolled, he could very well have injured himself. The fact that you can possibly lower him down means that the distance to go down will be that much less severe a drop.
You really should have thought of like grappling hook and rope.
Yeah, but you didn't know what you were getting into, and here you are. So, yes, Edwards and Andrews are able to try and lower Bravo down safely, and he does get down there without too much difficulty. It is a bit of a juddering impact that travels from your ankles all the way up to your shoulders, kind of thing. But otherwise, Bravo is unhurt and has now opened a hole for the rest of you to try and lower yourselves down. You've got maximum momentum, so you don't need to earn any more. Yes, sorry.
Only his pride got hurt.
Well, more than a little bit, probably, yes.
I mean, he found the entrance to the next floor. Like, that's what he was wanted to do, I think.
Yeah, so, you know, silver linings and all that.
Yep. I, for one, am proud of him.
Guys, I found the way down. It was a little more rapid than I wanted.
There's floor down here.
Is there? Well done. Glad you found the floor.
Yeah. Alright, so this is the kind of order we're going in. Obviously, Doc Bertram can't see Bravo at the moment to be able to assess what damage he sustained, if any, but he seems, from your comms, to be in reasonable good spirits, so that's a good sign.
Rather than just trusting the luck of things, can we do a
What's the
scan
condition of your clavicle?
to confirm that down further is the correct direction?
Sure, anybody who wants to can do another control plus science check using tricorders. So if you'd like to announce yourselves for who's doing it. Well, Natala's just going full-on jobby herself, it seems. Okay, so there's definitely... this is... one level. You've now discovered a hole to another level. There's one more level beneath the one that Bravo has just discovered. And that seems to be the one that the energy signature is coming from. With that many successes and no complications, I am going to say that you are, at this distance now, detecting life forms.
And signals to Andrews that we need to go down yet further from where they are down.
Some life signs are in small groups and are spreading out amongst the interior of this place. Some of them are on differing levels than others. But it appears they are moving with more intent of speed than they are to taking their time poring over the contents of this place. But
Further hand signals to communicate this information to Andrews.
Other life signs appear to be clustered on the lowest level, very near the energy signature. Relatively small life signs, but there are two larger life signs that are not on that level. They are on the level below the level where Bravo has currently gone down through, and at a bit of a distance, and seem to be moving, one in the direction of what you imagine are one of the groups of Orions, and one seems to be tracking in the direction of Bravo and whoever else has gone down to the next level. I hope that's clear enough.
So far, just Edwards.
So let me get you
I
guys
will-
in a place you can
I will act
see.
as the anchor to be to help everyone down.
Sure. So, let's see. Ta-da. Ta-da. Security. Okay, so that looks about right.
Catch him as they land.
Yep. So
Do a barrel roll.
Andrews
Yeah,
from one
bombs
side,
wisely.
Bravo from another. Everybody comes filtering down to another level. This one looks like at one point it might have been some kind of habitat level, because there now appear to be what look like maybe chairs, maybe desks. There are some windows to what look to have once been offices, perhaps, but these windows are covered with grime, and you're barely able to see much through them.
No, just to try a scan again of the architecture. Just seeing if I can identify any similarities through his own knowledge and through records.
Okie doke. Feel free to give it a good old scan like the previous tricorder lot. As Nova gets to there, a group of Orions come around the corner. And let me answer Edwards' question first before I let you go any further. Edwards. Let's see. Definitely several millennia old. Everything's far too corroded to give it a clear indication of what civilization may have built it. Some parts are similar to older civilizations, but nothing concrete that suggests any kind of link.
Anything unusual metallurgy-wise?
No. This place, like most civilizations you would imagine, appears to have been mined and refined from the planet itself. It doesn't look like they were in much of a... Sorry, Jan, go on.
So, Ensign Edwards and Dr. Bertram, seeing as the Orions are laying claim to this structure, is there anything in this structure that would indicate compatibility with Orion physiology or an incompatibility with Orion physiology?
Nothing that matches records of my experience of Orion archaeology and architecture. When it comes to physiology, you mean basically like are the doorways roughly like the same kind of shape / height to fit those type of
doorways,
species?
tables, chairs, that kind of thing.
So, same standard as the most
Humanoid.
common, humanoid and most, common sentient forms in this part of the galaxy. It'd be like saying, does this fit human physiology? Yes, but it doesn't mean it originates from humans.
But it's not as if the doors are 1 meter tall.
Basic designs are all too corroded for me to pull up anything definitive.
The Orions, in the meantime, who have just come around the corner near to Nova, they kind of stop as they see Nova come round the corner. Nova doesn't seem to be doing anything, so they just keep on walking. The one over this side just kind of looks at Nova, edges his head around to see if there's anyone coming behind her, and he can see the shoulder lamp lights of Bravo's EV suit, so he just kind of backs away down that corridor. And the other two are busy trying doors, opening and closing doors as they go. They still make the hiss sound before they move on.
Sorry, I might be slightly distracted from being attacked by a house trouble at the moment. Currently blocking the screen.
So directionally wise, where is the power source from us?
Directionally, down.
Should we follow
Kind
them?
of central, but...
Or are we avoiding them?
Irrelevant then.
I'm going to stop you right there, Shawnee boy.
Don't mean to run, Commander.
Nova gets to there before something happens. And I am going to roll... How do I roll this? Give me a second to do this. That's usually 1 and security. Moment. Security is 2. Grenade is 4, so that's 6. Okay. As Nova walks past this bit, she catches her foot on something and hears a click. And as she looks down, it looks like a grenade has just been loosed from its pin. There is a blinding crack and a flash. Nova doesn't get thrown anywhere from any kind of concussive force. What happens is there is a big flash that overloads Nova's, basically her eyes, and a deafening crack which makes her ears ring, and she takes a chuckload of stress all at once and gets knocked unconscious. Everybody's EV suits would get a reading that an alert that Nova's vitals haven't flatlined, but her she has been knocked completely unconscious.
From the angle where I
Bertram
was
is
at,
going to ask.
sorry. You first.
Bertram is going to ask people to cover him as he goes to try to tend to Nova.
I was like, from that angle in that corridor, would I have actually seen and heard the flash?
Oh yes.
Commander, I don't think they're no longer being friendly anymore.
Starfleet Decoration of Gallantry, whenever the character would suffer damage, halve the amount. Half of that would have been 10, so Nova dizzily slowly comes around.
I'm wondering how the EV suit would have reacted. Would it have darkened the visor so much that Nova
Which
kind
might
of comes
have-
around to a black suit?
Yeah, which might have been what
Breached
saved her.
EV suit.
So it looks like, actually, yeah, anybody with security training would say that she just got hit with a stun grenade. Bertram, examining Nova, finds that yes, this is consistent with a stun grenade. Sensory overload was used to render somebody unconscious.
Yeah. I'll give her one over to make sure there's no loss of effects. I also want to check to see if her EV suit has been compromised.
Actually, that's a point. Try and find the remains of the grenade to actually confirm this is of Orion design before I
Yes.
jump the gun.
Go on then.
There'll potentially be at least the pin and that.
Yeah,
part
there'll
of
be the
mechanism.
firing mechanism at the very least. So let's have a look. Let's give you a reason and engineering check, but I'm going to make it difficulty 3 by spending threat because there are just pieces of it lying around. It's going to be difficult to tell for sure.
Me to assist.
Will it potentially
Sure.
come? I'm going to use either metallurgy or cultural studies as I'm looking for specific markers to the species.
Okay,
You're
I can go with
you're
it.
looking for shrapnel. That's really
So
Pulling
metallurgy then.
well, even that's pulling at strings. You're
Yep,
how
Oh.
it's going to be
metallurgy
difficult.
is. I'm looking for metal.
Yep.
Not why would it go from an explosion radius?
I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You can always use his tricorder to assist.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Natala was assisting too.
Yeah.
Mhm. I don't believe I have a relevant focus other than just general sense of things, but I don't think it's quite going to be relevant.
What do we got here? Using the tricorder button again, I see. Okay, 2 successes, 3 successes. That's not bad at all. So, as much from the little bits of shrapnel you can find, more from the energy signature left behind from the actual detonation. Stun grenade, you can find these things in most black market weapons distribution centers throughout, around the galaxy.
But if it is of a firing mechanism or a pin, that means there potentially might have been enough surface area to at least leave a DNA or a fingerprint. So they would have had to have primed it. Because that bit would, if that was the bit that would have been ejected.
It's the stun grenade itself is obviously of known and therefore recent design, so it doesn't take forensics necessarily to determine that the Orions left it here for you.
Yeah, it's just definitive proof to to request permission to test out the gun for the commander. I'm just trying to get something solid that we can fall back on.
Well,
If we are doing a full scientific documentation of the use of the weapon, he wants to dot his eyes.
It's one of them of, again, is that we have no proof that this isn't a cultural site of the Orions, and they could be defending it. I know you're excited to use it, Ensign, but at the same time, we need to be absolutely sure of what their intentions are.
mm-hmm.
Certainly. Commander,
Having,
I'll no
having-
longer push.
Yeah.
but having said that, I mean, they did not expressly forbid us being here. So
That is what is interesting me as to what provoked this response. Is it this corridor they don't like us going down? Is it to never get too close to something specific?
Are they perhaps trying to slow you down? What would you like to do now?
Continue downwards.
The checks I was doing on Nova, did everything seem alright?
She seems okay. It's like what you expect from like a flashbang grenade.
Yeah.
So it's concussive force. It's a loud bang. It's a bright flash. She's she's at the moment Nova at the moment is a bit disorientated, but she suffered no actual physical damage, and the EV suit, thankfully, as well as Nova's own overall toughness, seems to have been what's prevented her from suffering any kind of thing like a burst eardrum or a snow blind, flash blinded eye or anything like that. So
I take it no breaches on the suit or anything like that?
the suit seems fine. There's a bit of energy scoring from the actual grenade going off, but nothing that seems to have compromised the integrity of the EV suit.
Cool.
Is the water erosion still a problem on this depth?
You can definitely detect signs of mold and damp down here, yes. At this specific part, there's less drippity drip, but there's certainly evidence of it around.
Could we possibly use that evidence to help give us a sense of direction? Basically, if we follow which way the water travelled down, we might get better clues as to where the nearest passage down is.
Sure. I mean, you've got
It's
even involved moss.
Yeah, that is assuming if there is a path for the water to travel down between floors.
I will certainly say that there appears to be water build-up in the kind of central area near to where you are at the moment that could
Which way
potentially
did the
be
Orions
exploited.
go?
Nova last saw them heading up this direction, and also one went up the other corridor, both of them going north. So, what's the plan? Is there a plan?
We think the central shaft is probably the way down, so we will get inwards beyond this block.
You have to go slower just to see if there's any more traps.
You're assuming that it was a trap that was left rather than...
Well, then they throw it. Good point. Well, given how this would have slowed us down enough times, they might have had enough time to set one up. But yeah, either way, I think we need to be careful, Lieutenant Commander.
Alrighty. Would you like to proceed on?
Are we assuming that we're going to be travelling slower so that we can scan as we go, effectively?
Sure. I'm alright with that, if that's what the plan appears to be. Okay. So, assuming now that, yes, everybody's guard appears to be up, and therefore travelling at a lot more focused, slow and focused rate in order to try and avoid not only collapsing floors and walls, but also now potential surprises left behind by other people.
I don't think Natala can quite help herself from, like, she thinks she knows where she's going a little bit, and so she sort of, her trolley wheels internally are slightly veering right.
So yes, regardless of what other people are doing, Natala has got her face very much in her tricorder and seems to be leaning in a certain direction, yes. So unless folks are going to contradict me.
Split the party, split the party, split the party. Split the party.
Natala seems to be heading towards this door and into this area.
Oh, we're leaving
I
Bravo
don't-
behind.
The one on his own suggests that the others are potentially the decoy. The big group goes one way and he goes off the other way.
Did they seem to come from the direction, or has he gone back to warn his friends?
It was difficult to tell. They certainly came from around that corner. And then one of them went back that way while the other two went this way, and that's the direction that Nova went, and bang. Some doors that are being tried are, yes, they're either swollen in their the joints and therefore unable to be budged, or they can be moved somewhat, but it's evident that the room beyond has collapsed. So some rooms are inaccessible due to obvious damage. But Natala, there is a certain amount of water accumulation going on in this specific part of this. Well, almost looks like a... Difficult to tell what this could once have been, but it seems to have just started accumulating waste and water. There's definitely erosion of the floor going on in the middle part that could, if coaxed, provide you with a means of getting to the next level, the final level down, that doesn't involve following where the Orions were going. Bertram, you judge that Nova should be alright to go under her own power now. She seems cogent enough, although she might need to be told things a little louder than usual. There's a ringing in her ears.
Okay, I'll make sure the team knows about that as well.
So
What?
Nova has to turn the volume up of her vox. Vox? That's very Warhammer 40k of me. The communication volume needs to go up.
She'll turn it down so she hasn't got a head.
Yeah, but then they all just think that she's an idiot, that she can't hear her.
Pretty much.
She's fine with it.
But then you get the emotional feedback of everyone calling her an idiot. And then she starts behaving like an idiot. It's just like it's a dangerous
Vicious
cycle.
circle, yes.
She wouldn't behave like an idiot. She'd just think everyone's an idiot.
So, echoing back to Nova, that's not a very smart thing to think.
So phases as a rule have a setting for just about everything.
They do.
What's the setting for helping a destabilized floor along its way?
You basically, if you don't want to, you want to pick out a spot that looks like it's not load-bearing and not going to collapse.
Yeah.
So, as such, I am going to up the threat range of the complication range of this next action, like a son
Do you
of a...
think it's a reason engineering?
I will go with that. And then an application of a phases setting at reasonably high so that it can vaporize the
Well, you know,
specific part.
you could, you know, if you wanted to document it, you could use something that uses sonic to resonate the ground.
True, but the sonic stun gun was made with or the sound gun rather, was made to set up vibration with air vibration. Sorry, sound vibration. Bleh, that affects biological creatures. It hasn't got the juice required to set up an actual harmonic vibration.
Would you think that safety protocols is a reasonable focus? For
I
this?
would think that safety protocols is a reasonable difference, but I would hesitate to also say that you probably want somebody who's got a focus with phases as well to give Natala a better idea of how high or how low a setting to go.
And Keval is standing right there.
And Keval is standing right there.
Well, number 2, I suggest we look at these settings.
See this here?
It's
This
somewhere
makes it
between.
go up. This makes it go down.
It's somewhere between dazzling and effective.
But it's not 11.
So a little above the peach and slightly below the.
Andrews looks down her phaser set to 11 and feels like quite upset that that mistake. What's wrong with 11?
To crank it up to 11.
So, yes, Keval...
My phaser goes up to 12. No.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing of Spinal Tap.
Keval can probably aid this with control and security, with the emphasis on hand phasers, the focus on hand phasers, pardon me, while Natala is trying to go with safety, to try and do this safely, and with engineering as a focus. So 1 success, 3 successes, 4 successes. No one rolled anything near an 18, 19, or a 20. So it's all good. So, yeah. Phasers fire out, but I don't have a target, so I can't actually fire on anything. As with Commander Thazanen's guidance, Commander Natala picks a specific section of the floor and basically vaporizes it. There's a moment where it looks like more than the part you picked out is going to crumble, but it doesn't, thankfully. It seems to stabilize itself and settle. So you now have a point of access roughly this big in the floor. So, and like with most of these futuristic weapons, it cuts a perfect square shape.
Keval put it on the square setting, thank you very much.
It's hip to be square.
So,
Round is
you
so
now
last
have...
year.
Sorry, I talked over you there.
As it round is so last year.
More of a rectangle. Well, yes, exactly. So, you now have a point of access to the lowest level. So, is there a game plan for who goes first, or is it just the folks who cut the hole are the ones who venture down it?
I say I'll go mid, or actually no, supporting whoever's actually going to be firing the gun if it comes down to it.
Potentially entering a combat environment, I happily bow to the wisdom of security.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to go first, unless Commander Andrews wants to lead the charge.
Whichever, I do not mind.
Okay, so let's have certain folks at the lead, other folks. Let's go that way. Okay. So, as they descend the final level, the away team ends up in a T-junction, almost. But they don't have to travel far before they come upon a collapsed wall that leads to what looks like almost like a nest.
Oh, lovely.
Hang on a second. I'm trying to find the relevant bits in my notes. Excuse me, sorry. Right, so there are about half a dozen young animals reminiscent of predatory raccoons, the size of mountain lions, hanging around in that section. They appear to be playing with a pair of azurite-coloured rods about 15 centimeters long. Anybody who bothers taking energy readings will realize that those energy rods are what's been emitting the power signature. And excuse me a second. As the away team comes to the end of their particular part of the T-junction, that's when they hear a clattering of footsteps coming down the way from the east. The Orions appear to be arriving at the same kind of time as yourselves. Badger? Well, yes. Pretty much. The Orions get to about here, led by Tarn herself, who sees the wall, the hole in the wall, the glowing rods, and looks back at yourselves. And everything becomes tense and silent as an obvious standoff occurs. The standoff is halted as a very definite growling sound can be heard. From behind the Orions, a much larger variation of the smaller creatures emerges, but likewise, from the opposite side, another larger creature. Both of them bearing their many, many fangs, as they are looking between the smaller creatures and yourselves with obvious hostile intent.
The Vulcans taken their final form.
What are you going to do?
I think you'll find it's humans when they hit warp 10.
The
Cannibal
Cardassian
crossing.
problem.
They've got such a cheerful smile, and he's making them out to be such killer beasts.
Commander, can I recommend you take a step backwards, please, sir?
Beasties aren't looking happy.
Potentially as well, Lieutenant Commander.
Which one?
Keval, sorry. Azanan, sorry. Lieutenant Commander Azanan.
Azanan.
Keval will have the prototype weapon at the ready.
Oh, he's got it. Okay.
The Lonnie Tarn is looking between the away team, the big creatures, and the smaller creatures, most notably at the ones playing with the rods. And those who can see her can see that she's running, she's trying to calculate which course of action is the most dangerous, which one is going to pay off. She's looking at you, she's looking at her guards, including the twins who are all sporting weapons, who are looking to her to give a yes or no. So it seems...
Bravo just gives a go ahead. Wave.
Do any of the little beasties, the ones that are playing with the rods, do any of them have a particularly firm grasp on the rods?
One of them is pretty much trying to grind it in its teeth, while another one is just batting it about with its paws.
Okay.
So, Nova, can you make us a little bit more appealing to the to these things? Like fuzzy thoughts?
I mean, I could try. The Orions are a little bit weird, but why not?
Excellent, we're now part of the pack.
There's another cross-franchise quote for you. Alright, so what are you guys doing?
And trying to reason with the beasts, I guess. A calming presence that we're not a threat, but so they'll focus on the Orions.
Okies.
I am not here. Please ignore me. I will draw my phaser.
So you're trying to send basically mental or emotional impressions
Trying to tame the
towards...
savage beast.
Yeah. That is going to be
Well,
presence and command, very much. And because this can go very wrong, I'm going to put an extra complication range on that. Empathetic Orphan will definitely work as a value to use your determination for. There's a voice carrying on the wind.
Ooh, I wonder what it could mean.
Yeah. I think that's about all I've got. Oh, one. Throw one of those on.
Starcross. Okay.
So we used it to determination. Don't have a focus in this complication. And got
Ooh, nice. Oh, an 18. That was so dang close. Oh. Warm, fuzzy thoughts indeed. Right. I am going to say that this imposes a point of stress on Nova because a Betazoid empath is used to just feeling things from around her and them around to gain a gauge of the emotional states of creatures around her. Not so much impose them, but we do know that even empathic Betazoids have a degree of telepathy. So it's possible to project an empath's feelings to other telepaths, not necessarily non-sentient creatures. So with those many successes, I'll allow that you did do it, but this is strenuous activity that is basically going to give Nova a nosebleed. And now, is it the big beasts or the little beasts you were trying to calm?
probably the big beasts,
Probably
I guess.
the big beasts.
Yeah.
Alright, the big beasts do seem to relax a little bit, which does get Tarn's attention. At which point she says, "Hold them off while I go for the rods." And the twins go with her. These guys seem to step up and aim weapons at this fella. That
If they're
one is
deliberately
covering
going-
you guys. That guy, these guys are moving back and up, pointing their weapons at the other large creature. So,
Yeah, they're being aggressive now. They go on, Keval, have fun.
add some things to initiative.
Attack them like they're Vulcans being snooty.
Yeah. Kill the Vulcans.
Right, so can I move things around? No, I can't, because of course not. And I can't even change initiative order. Never mind. Forget the combat tracker. I take it you guys want to use. I take it Andrews is using the usual thing to kick things off to make sure everybody goes first. Awesome. Just kick the ambience up.
Bertram, are any of the moss on your person tasty snacks?
Well, as it happens, the Glycota are quite nutritious.
Could you try
Does this
and
count?
Go on.
could you try and use it to bait over that one with the rod in its mouth to come over here and play?
Sure, that'll be easy, he said sarcastically, not knowing how the hell to do that.
Quick
Right.
God question.
Yep.
Does Bertram talking about moss count as a mass sleep spell for the enemy?
Sadly, no.
Oh,
Doctors, what are you doing here? Get back to the engines.
Right, who of
I'm
your
all
lot
in
wants
your
to go
head.
first?
I think Keval.
Keval can go first. Okay.
Keval's got the gun.
Keval's got the sonic gun. That's a darn good point.
I like to call it the prototype.
So, the sound gun does have the area ability, or effect rather. So, if I can just bring us back on what that was, does that mean you automatically target 2 and then get extra, or...
Yeah, I think it's an
Hoping
extra
for a
1 for every
cone.
success, or every effect, rather.
Area. So the attack affects a wider area, can affect several targets. The attack automatically affects any character or damageable object within reach of the initial target, and then 1 additional within close range per effect. So, for instance, aiming at that fella there would automatically get those 2. But any more than that would have to count for the number of extra effects that you roll.
If possible, I target the leader, because I think taking out the leader would severely limit the capacity of the others to do something.
So, debilitating... What's the qualities of this weapon again? Let me just remind myself. So not only is it area, it's also debilitating and non-lethal. Debilitating means that medicine tasks performed first aid are much harder to do. Non-lethal, the weapon is debilitating rather than deadly, and to make it lethal is harder to do. Okay. So other than that, it's just the damage that it inflicts. Feel free to give it a whirl. It's a targeted device, so the difficulty is going to be 2, as per usual. If you're targeting the leader, then you're going to get the twins either side automatically. So this is going to be, this is going to be control and security. Difficulty 2.
I think I shall use the Legion of Honor.
So that was permission. The character may do one of the following: gain 2 bonus momentum on a single task, or ignore a complication. You have to do it before I announce the complication effect, if there is one. Okay. I gotta be quick then.
Point of momentum as well.
Alright.
With this prototype, I can't remember, does it have an additional complication range, or is it standard?
It's standard for now. 4 successes, which means you get 2 over and above what you needed, which means if you want, you can add 2 extra dice to the damage, or bank them, or bank 1 and add 1 to damage.
I'll bank 1, and then I'll use the extra 1 plus the additional 2 from the Legion of Honor to add to the damage.
Right. Okay, so I've banked 1, so you can add 3 extra dice to the damage of this. So, Keval does whatever the Andorian equivalent is of crossing himself before he wields the sound gun, aims it, the readout analyzes for Orion and attunes itself accordingly.
How do you add dice to the damage roll again?
Okay, so when you go to the sound gun, the icon, the image with the sound gun turns into a dice when you hover over it. You press that. Oh, it didn't give you the option of doing it. So just add, just roll d6 more, a couple of d6 more.
3 more
Usually,
dice?
Yeah.
with ship weapons, it gives you the option of adding more. So maybe it's not so with personal weapons. Other than that, the rolls were 1, 2.
Sorry.
Were you testing on the second one?
Oh, that second one was tested.
Okay. So let's see. 8 successes, 3 effects, along with 1, 2 more successes. So that's 10 in total, getting an extra 3 people, which means you could not only get these 3, you get that one, and that one too. And they all take 8. Which means 8. Oh my.
That's not what there is, right?
What this tells me survivor's hat on is we need to make this be double-barreled.
So, yeah, Keval aims it, Keval lets it read the Orion physiology and attune itself accordingly, and Keval activates the device, at which point the Orions in that cone, that area, all clutch their heads all of a sudden as they are suddenly bombarded with sound waves that are beyond the range of hearing of pretty much the rest of you. The creatures seem to wince a little bit, but they don't have as visceral a reaction to the sound guns, sound waves as the Orions do. You haven't rendered them all immediately unconscious, but they certainly seem to be the worse for wear as a result of being subjected to that sound blast. So that's Keval's go. Who wants to go next?
Well, I was going to say, do you want to let Security Bravo next?
Sure, if you want.
Stun, widespread.
Yeah, you need to use a quick action first if you want to tune your phaser to a different ability.
I'm speaking for Davis, so I do apologise. What do you want to do, Davis? It's your control.
Well, since I left myself on mute and I matched you word for word there, so that's about right.
So, just to let you know, the phaser has got the charge ability, which means that if you spend a minor action, a quick action, before you attack with the weapon to switch it, you can change it to have the area, or the intense, or the piercing, or the vicious qualities.
Okay, let's
effects,
spend a minor action to switch it to area and
Right.
stun.
So who's the who's the first target?
First target, if it'll let me get the screen. Let's go for that one in the middle.
So could you ping the one that you're aiming for, please? That one. So your first shot, whether or not you get any effects, automatically includes that one, and that one, and that one in the immediate effect. Okay. This is a difficulty 2 control and security task.
Okay. And these are hand phasers.
Yes, they are, so focus
Not
applies.
starship phasers.
Big difference.
Look, Davis, just because on STO you can nuke everyone from orbit when you're doing ground missions, it doesn't mean you do it in this.
Alright, 2 successes, bang on what you needed, so just roll the phaser damage as normal. Cool. 6 successes, 3 effects, which means you get 3 extra. Now, from his angle, I imagine the 3 extra you want to be, I don't know, her, him, and maybe that one off to the side?
Yep.
Cool. So, 6 successes in total. The middle one takes it first and is dropped. Same goes for the rest. As a wide-angle phaser beam just lances out. Just this cone of phaser energy just gulps them all. Let's see. And another time doesn't have anything like that. 6 in total. And this one takes 6. The moment Lelanitan, the leader, is downed, she's obviously struck with the wide-angle stun as everybody else is. All the guys go down, as does she, at which point there's a sudden shimmer as she's immediately beamed away. That's Bravo's turn. Who wants to go next?
As Dr. Bertram was rather confused by my suggestion, I might ask to be passed the moss so I can do it myself.
That's fine.
To be honest, if we can sort of like stun and take down the last two, I was thinking more instead of actually trying to direct some young children creatures through combat, if we could, if they can be stunned
A safe
first, we
environment, yeah.
might be able to use them with a bit of coaxing to sort of like calmly move them out the way so we can get to these fins, these rod fins that they were after.
Yes.
What do you think, Commander? Do you reckon you can we can take down the last two and then try and coax the creatures away without harming them?
I think that would be a more prudent approach.
Yeah.
All right then. So who wants to go next?
I think shoot bang bang team.
Shooty bang bang team. Better get out. Get to
And,
position. They can
you
shoot
know what?
it.
Yeah, sod it now. I'm not going to shoot.
Punch!
You're gonna punch one out.
Intru's forearm!
I almost picture. I almost picture. This is the one time I played a game like this, but Deus Ex Human Revolution. I do remember the bit where if you get the right upgrade for the main character, you can punch through walls.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he kind of selects a mode on his arm, and it kind of like cranks back like a piston about to go out. So that's when I imagine what Andrews' cybernetic arm is doing right now. It kind of cocks back like a piston ready to fire.
Yeah.
Chink chink. Now this is going to be daring and security versus the Orion's daring and security. This is going to be a fisticuffs.
He got a complication.
He got a complication, so...
Yeah, I was going to roll and spend a determination on that, but just to absolutely make sure that he goes through. But
He tries to leap over you, and instead of leaping over you, he accidentally puts his crotch at your fist height.
I'll go with that.
So, I'm going to use advanced hand-to-hand advanced hand-to-hand combat as a foe guide. Oh no!
No!
Right. Which means that the Orion uses his disruptor rifle as a club.
He hits me in the face with his crotch and it
breaks it.
distracts me.
And he's using it in an improvised fashion, so I'm going to say he gets one extra die on that because... Which means he gets an effect. So he gets 1, 2, 3 successes, 2 effects. So Andrews takes... Tis but a scratch. But does get knocked on her butt, so does get knocked down. As a result. As she comes charging in, but doesn't quite get the angle right, trips on her body. The Orion guard just kind of wings back with his weapon and uses it as a club, which surprises Andrews. Puts her off, and she unfortunately stumbles and falls as the Orion presses his attack forward. Who's going next? Give it a go. Give it a go.
Okay, pull the phaser. Can I just about... Actually, no. Commander's prone, so I'll want to shoot the one that's already down a bit. I said setting it to stun as well.
Alright.
So it'd be...
Control and security.
Ooh, just the one.
So unfortunately, that is... a miss. The phaser beam lances out, but gets nothing but bulkhead, or whatever you want to call it, wall on the other side. We've still got Nova and Natala and Bertram to go, so... Is Nova feeling up to a bit of fisticuffs, or shooty bang fire, or...?
It's always going to be fisticuffs.
I had a feeling.
Runs in and drop kicks.
And then running and goes, hit me with a stun grenade, will you?
He saved the fire and just to return it the hard way. Puts it in a fist like a set of keys and starts windmilling.
Stun dog
stun
millionaire.
grenade knees him in the nose.
You hit me with a stun grenade. Now I'm going to hit you with a stunner.
Stone Cold! Stone Cold!
Stone
Growl
Cold.
Snake!
So, yep, this is going to be a daring and security contest. Obviously, Nova has got a focus she can use. I get a success. You adding any momentum to this, or?
Nah, we're just gonna go for it.
Just gonna go for it as is. I like
That's
it.
what I did, and it didn't go well.
Well.
I can cancel one of these.
You can cancel that? Okay, cool. So it's a draw. So it's basically they're both fighting, they're both blocking each other's attacks, getting essentially nowhere. So the Orion is holding Nova off at the moment. Which leaves us with Bertram and Natala. What do you guys want to do?
I'm still thinking. Well, actually, looking at these creatures, does it look like they're likely to be sort of like herbivores and potential sort of like plant and mushroom eaters, or do they look like they might be more carnivores?
I'm gonna let you do a reason and medicine check for that.
Okay.
Difficulty 1.
Biology is.
Yes. Okay, looking at them, they have got long claws.
Yeah.
And very sharp front teeth, which they're bearing at people who are threatening their youngsters. The claws look like they're made more for digging, but as such, pretty darn sharp. The front teeth are enough to chew through most things, almost like a beaver's, but they're kind of serrated more than they are flat.
Yeah.
So these are creatures that are obviously used to digging and chewing their way through obstacles. So they could very well be... They could be herbivores, but they could also be omnivores. They could eat bugs and things about the right size. Small animals and the like.
So, I imagine if they got digging fins, then, if not complete herbivores, they'd probably at least do eat plant material and stuff, because they're probably going to be rooting around and stuff.
Yeah. Worms, slugs, those kind of things.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I might go with the thing of trying to actually attract their attention with the glow mirror mycota. Try and sort of like lure them out and possibly sort of like when I got the attention of me sort of coming out, try and maybe toss some of them in this direction to try and get them away from the fighting.
Interesting. Let's see how accurate the Doctor's arm appears to be. This is going to be control and... This is going to be security because it's more of a physical thing. Just to see how good your aim is. But yes, the Doctor reaches in and shakes the mycota in order to activate their glowing.
How does assisting in combat work? So this would probably be the best plan.
If you want to assist, then yeah, you basically give up one action from your go to assist. So I would have thought.
What am I rolling?
This is going to be control and security to see how well you can get an aim in there.
This seems appropriate. Can I invoke the value balance of science and nature?
Okie dokie.
It just seems like a really appropriate situation to do that.
It seems fine to me.
Okay. I'm going to assume the focuses don't really count for this.
Not really. You don't have a focus on throwing mushrooms, so.
Not yet.
Not yet.
New Federation sport.
4 successes with.
And Natala does not help in any visible way.
Aim that way.
She just brings out some pom-poms, goes, "Go doctor, go doctor." And just, he pauses.
You're distracting me.
You need to go to the lecture to learn how this sort of thing works with mushrooms.
All right. The Doctor gets a really good throw and manages to blanket an area.
Yeah, I'm probably going to move a step by there to get the angle right, if that's okay.
No, that's wrong. That's fine. Bertram kind of blankets an area, kind of like that, and with a couple of them, so that you get as much attention of the little ones as you do. Yeah. The big one just kind of stops there, looks down, and gives Bertram a look of, what are these? And just sniffs at them. Yeah. And the little ones, of course, have now seen shiny, glowing things moving, and the two that were playing with the glow rods kind of put them down as there's something new and interesting going on. And the adult actually comes down and gives them a sniff, gives them a lick, and then chomps one. And then its eyes go wide with, "Oh, hello, this is tasty." Which, of course, attracts the attention of the little ones, who are now going to start rushing in, going, "Me, I want some." Me. There's a bit of playful competition fighting amongst the little ones as they're competing over who gets to eat it. So you've created a diversion, which means, for the moment, I get to do the Orions versus Nova and Andrews. So first it's the one against Nova. These guys have got no focuses, and I roll a complication. So Nova, if you could roll daring and security.
Yep.
Please, shorty boy. I've already got a complication, so you should get one on this. 2 successes, so you actually get 3 from my complication. So you can add 3 to damage.
Okay.
So that's basically
did we work
unarmed
out how
strike.
to do that?
No, it's basically roll afterwards. So
Yeah, okay.
roll unarmed strike and roll an extra 3.
1, 2, 3. Roll. Nope, that was wrong. Try again.
That was plus d6 plus 3. Yeah. So click the square 3 times. 3d6. Cool. I didn't see the dice.
Oh, we did skip over my other action,
Sorry? Oh, your other action. I do apologise.
which is probably just going to be calling out more encouragement. So, up and at him, Commander.
Go, come on. Go, come on. Okay, so, yeah. Somebody gets to add 2 successes, so we'll see where Nova ends up. Maybe Andrews might need the 2 extra successes to fight from the ground. So we'll count that. But that's 1, 2, 3 extra and 2 successes. So that's actually 8 successes and 4 effects. So as the Orion Guard redoubles his efforts to come in, Nova basically deflects his blows, finds an opening, and knocks him to the floor. Probably, knowing Star Trek, doing the whole 2-handed sledgehammer fist attack.
Personally, I think this link describes how it works.
Okie-dokie. Excuse me, I'll scratch my nose. Which brings us to Andrews. So Andrews, if she wants, can either use the 2 successes to add to Natala's 2 successes to add to daring and security, or can save them for the damage.
I think we'll save them for the damage.
So here's my roll. I got nothing. It seems he blew his metaphorical load in his initial attack. Veteran, yep, so roll a d6, see if we get a 5 or a 6. Got a 3, so nope, you spend the determination as per normal. 4 successes! So that's, well, 4 over and above what I had, so you can add 4 to the damage, if not 6 to the damage if you add Natala's.
Yeah, we'll take the Natala damage.
Fighting from beneath, so Andrews more than likely kicks the legs out from the Orion as the Orion comes at her, locks him up.
She's fighting dirty.
Bites him in
Right
the
shot.
ankles.
Not biting him in the ankle, it's pod shot.
I think biting the ankles more her style.
Full on haymaker to the pod, to the spuds.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, that Orion speaks so high pitch now that we think, oh my god, they've got their own version of the sonic weapon.
Alright, so roll damage, plus the extras.
Punchy.
Yeah, so unarmed strike. 4 with, what was it, an extra 4 damage?
You said 6.
6? Good lord. Roll an extra
66,
66.
isn't it?
Yep. Wow. So we've got an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 successes. So that's 8 successes, pardon me, and 3 effects. 8 successes, 3 effects, 8 successes, 3 effects. And he gets knocked to the ground. I think it's safe to say at this point that he pretty much surrenders.
Stop hitting me! It's really painful!
Pretty much.
Stop pummeling me! It's really, really painful.
So, yeah, the Orion falls to the floor after being viciously pod-shotted by Andrews. He just rolls around, unable to actually say anything, but he holds his hand up in a placating gesture while the other one hangs on to what's left of his manhood. Nova, having knocked out the other Orion, is able to very much get waves of
Food.
food coming from the other adult comes up and is not looking terribly sure, but Nova is still able to exude that air of we're friendly.
Reassurance.
Yeah. So it just kind of looks at you, looks past, smacks its lips a little bit, looks at Nova again, looks over at Andrews, and then just decides, you know what, that looks too tasty to pass up. And off it goes to join in the feast. So that allows a canny Nova and or Andrews to slip into the makeshift nest very quickly and gather up the rods. But when whoever goes in there, they also discover that the room beyond seems to contain an inoperative computer panel. The panel itself seems to have had the base of it ripped open, and there's a gap that, funnily enough, seems to be where you would insert 2 long tubular objects within it. This seems to suggest that the power rods that you've been reading the source of came from this computer terminal. So it stands to reason if you were to reinsert them, you might be able to reactivate the computer panel.
Do we want to reactivate the panel?
That becomes the question, doesn't it? If you don't want to, the computer itself looks relatively intact enough that if you wanted to, you could maybe pry it open and get at its gubbins. So, which course of action would you prefer to employ?
Thoughts.
What was that, sorry, Webby?
Thoughts.
Thoughts, right.
I think activating it here would make the most sense, because then we're not going to break anything trying to take it away.
Also, if it's relevant to any other system here, if we knew what this building was for, I'd be more inclined to determine that, because say this is a water treatment system, this console would activate water treatment, but if you take the console away, all you've got is a button that says water treated. It doesn't actually do anything.
That's it. I think I'd have a good go being able to get it to sing for us. Tell us
Okey-dokey.
get as much information as we can, at least.
Yeah, so, Nova, Edwards, do you two want to both have a play?
With permission, Commander?
If I could basically spend the same amount of time trying to help them get context clues so that if they do turn something on, they know what it is.
Okay.
I'd like to lead using my specialization in ancient technology.
Sure. Whoever wants to
Unless
assist can
there-
assist with
unless there's
tinking
a-
and...
As I say, unless there's a rebuttal.
Sounds fair enough to me.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't know if Shaun
That's all right.
would insist on going for as the lead.
We could both be working at the other ends of things, but it would make a certain degree of sense either way. So whoever wants to start rolling, roll now. Whoever's assisting, roll just 1 dice. Whoever's being the primary, roll 2.
Science or engineering?
Science at this point, I think, would make more sense.
Insight or reason? Or to be control?
Insight will do me fine. Daring and science, okay, ripping open the gubbins, having a look.
Yep.
2 successes, 1 success. Cool. You. So this was you, just for my, because I was looking at stuff. You are activating it by putting in the rods, or you are pulling it apart?
Activating.
Activating it, cool. So the computer screen flickers into life, and there is a brief emblem that flickers into being across the readout, which I have just now posted to Discord. Those who are watching the stream can see that right in the middle of my screen. It flashes up for a bit, and it's this computer's obviously seen no use for a long, long time, so the screen is hazy and blurry and indistinct. It manages to do only one thing, which is call up what looks like to Nova and Edward to be a star map with a little blip saying, "You are here." There is one person amongst your number that has a focus in astronavigation, so it would probably be best to call him up.
Certainly. I'll call up Keval. We're also looking to see if there's any way to basically connect it with my pad to basically download a copy.
Yep. You can grab a copy off of that. I mean, Nova's there. She can probably rudely connect a wire to a data pad.
And before they do anything else, shall we? Can we do some asking of questions of this place? Basically, do a little bit of the head bones connected to the neck bone, and piece together like how much power can be drawn to what they're operating with.
Is it worth identifying that symbol as well?
Yes, indeed.
I have a horrible feeling that they might have been telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of the time, I'm going to summarize this. Keval, when called over, has a look at the star map and does recognize the layout of these planets and systems. The focus is, of course, on what Keval realizes is the Orion sector of space, and for the most part it seems to contain the same stars, but it does appear to branch out to other systems that at the moment are outlying Federation outposts and systems that brush up against the Orion's territory. That's all that this seems to offer up as information. The emblem certainly appears to bear resemblance to emblems that the Orions do use to represent themselves as a nation, as a people, rather than as the symbol for the Orion Syndicate. So if this map is to be believed, at some point there might very well have been an Orion Empire, and it might very well have controlled a rather significant portion of space, some of which at the moment is claimed by the Federation. The rest of the facility is in too poor a condition to benefit anything from these 2 power rods, and they cannot power anything more than this simple little information kiosk, which doesn't offer up anything else other than this star chart. Its memory is too corroded, but the star chart alone is something of great historical significance, and the power rods themselves, at the moment, it's not entirely clear how it works, but anybody who could take this away and reverse engineer it could create a pretty potent power source of their own from it. So,
I doubt that the Orion captain particularly cares about the historical significance of the find. Why am I thinking treasure map?
Or technology.
Quite.
Questions that need to be answered.
Well, we could always interrogate some Orions that have fallen asleep.
Fallen down.
Yes, indeed, you've got more than a few. And when
They
you
might
folks...
have been hurt
Yeah.
by that sonic gun. We're gonna have to take them back to sickbay.
Yeah, to full medical examination.
What you
this
also
guy here,
discovered,
I'm pretty sure has lost a bollock.
And you never know. There might be some potential for, I don't know what the equivalent of white blood cells is for the
They might have developed a natural immunity to the disease, so it might be worth taking a sample to help the effort.
Quite.
Aha.
Are we
Okay.
talking about yet green cells at this point then?
Well, you will be unsurprised to learn that the moment that you overpowered this group, especially the moment that the leader, Tarn herself, was downed and beamed out, you learn when you get back to the Navis or get within comm range of them again that the Orion Raider ship broke orbit and fled after the transport of their leader was complete. So they've booked it for the horizon, leaving their fellows behind. You have some items, both physical and informational, of great historical significance. What their meaning could be for the future remains to be seen. However, after more than a couple of days, the disease response team, thanks to information that Dr. Bertram turns over about the potential manufactured nature of the disease and the fact that it's going to burn itself out after a few days, aids in the eradication of the disease. If it was engineered, somebody went through a great deal of trouble for it, and probably expense. To what ultimate end? It's not at this moment clear. Your suppositions do seem to make a certain amount of sense.
I'd hate to be this dude's sis. I'd hate to be this this captain's brothers. Oh wait, we've got them. Hi boys. How you doing?
Now it turns out that the twins are actually her sons, you learn later. And when they are brought around to consciousness, they do swear that their mother will get them out of wherever you send them. And when you do, the House of Tarn is going to come crashing down upon you. Whatever that's supposed to mean.
You're not the first people to threaten us.
We also might be able to trade them to the Klingons for prisoner exchange.
Interesting. Lots of things to take into account, but for the moment, that is the end of our episode tonight. So well done to these folks for managing to get through it without too much injury to their characters.
Again, Moss wins today.
Thanks for the streaming. Well, thanks for watching, Suitable Substrate. It was nice to have you along again.
I finally got to test the thing, so I'm happy.
Yeah, the sound gun works very well.
From engineering, I managed to figure out the stop in the cell. It took 3 bottles of whiskey and half the Andorian ale, but it makes sense. Spot.
I've
Yes,
even
eventually
wrote down
you're
my
able to get
theory
information
here.
back.
It's on a napkin that's just completely blurred. It's like,
No,
Covered in spilt whiskey.
it's maniacal writing all over a wall.
I'm now pretty
Well, makes
convinced
sense.
that... Sorry, go
More
on, Jan.
Nova and no logic, mate. Swiber's a sad boy.
Go on,
Over
Jan.
and over again.
Keval makes a note to check his stock of Andorian ale.
It
oh,
might
it's
be out.
gone.
It might be out. I'm
It's
getting
got
more
even
and more
Mr.
convinced now that Nova is in communication with eldritch creatures from the beyond time.
Mr.
Which might
Monaco's
explain
even
a few
pulled
things.
out Mr. Monaco's even pulled out the emergency preserves. And it's just like all gone. It's just Fibers is just on the table going.
I like how it's not the emergency reserves, it's the emergency preserves. So you're bringing out the hard stuff that's used for preserving samples and containers and stuff like that. Like the engine
It's
cleaner.
literally medicinal.
Isn't this 100% ethanol? Yes.
It's not
They get
strong
a double.
It's not strong enough very well, so I'm getting the stronger stuff.
What is it, sir? It's green.
Quantum whiskey.
I still love that they carried that on from the first series.
Yeah.
It's green.
I still remember the episode when you first got that. I was trying to get aliens that turned into human form for the first time, drunk.
Well, he needed a distraction, and it worked. It was beautiful. It was such a good episode.
It was like teaching them that being human isn't all that great. What are you going to do? Get them that drunk?
Well, no, they weren't teaching them to be human.
No,
They
that one was the one. That specific one was the one he was trying to seduce. The other one was trying to get jealous. The other one, the sky just went solid, get him drunk.
Yeah, and they weren't trying to teach them to be human. They were trying to break them.
Yeah, I didn't say teach them to be human. I was like teaching that being human isn't all that great. It was they weren't used to the body, so they was basically trying to use that part of humanity as you really don't want to be in this form. I remember it, just about.
Nice. Oh, a bit of original series for us. Brilliant. Well then, guys, thank you very much for taking part. I hope folks enjoyed that. Bit of delving into the past with potential ramifications for the future.
Dun dun dun.
And something that wasn't the Klingons for a change.
Yep. The important thing is we saved the beasties.
You did. Made new furry friends.
Yay.
Colonists do what they got themselves in for. It was their own fault. They got ill.
Yeah, well.
Finding moss-based pollutions is becoming contagious.
Yep.
So we now know there are two factions of Andorians, sorry, not Andorians, Orions we need to be careful of. The Syndicate, which wear those weird black Starfleet badges, and we have the Historical Society.
The Orion Historical Society, which again sounds like something out of H.P. Lovecraft. They're trying to make contact with their elder gods. You know those? You know that old that old Games Master meme of you come up with an idea, then the players come up with a better idea, and you decide to use that instead.
Yeah.
I may have just found the better idea.
I am halfway through the Doom King of Gotham.
It's currently running operations anyway.
Well, folks, thank you very much for tuning in, those who did tune in. For those of you who are seeing this on YouTube afterwards, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to give us a like just so that those of us who do actual plays and Star Trek videos can get a bit of a boost with our AI masters on the algorithm. And if you are not an AI, but if you're also nice sentient AIs, the good sentient AIs, then maybe you can feel free to live long and prosper.
As long as they click like and subscribe,
then you're all right by us. But remember also to practice infinite diversity and infinite combinations, just like the Vulcans attest to live long and prosper, be good to each other, and to look after yourselves until we see you again. Hailing frequencies will now close.